Chapter 271. Double cultivation with Gong Sunling. Yang Chen's whole person had been stunned and his whole body didn't dare to move, but Gong Sunling's action made Yang Chen feel the softness of Gong Sunling's body easily. Especially when Gong Sunling's legs were on his waist and her hands were on his neck, Yang Chen's heart was soaring. "What are you doing, fool?" Seeing that Yang Chen stayed in the same place, Gong Sunling couldn't help but scold him lightly, and then she closed her eyes with shame. However, Yang Chen's more and more rapid sensation of the spiritual awareness made her wake up immediately and quickly turned her forehead to Yang Chen's forehead and then began to work on her own. At this time, if Yang Chen still didn't understand what happened, Yang Chen would be a fool. His master Gao Yu must have found that her and Yang Chen's dual cultivation have been unable to solve Yang Chen's troubles, so she put this idea in the head of his senior sister, Gong Sunling. Originally, Yang Chen was somewhat resistant, but when he saw that Gong Sunling had made such an embarrassing thing for himself, Yang Chen's heart softened and no longer resisted, closed his eyes and began to act. Although it was the first time for the two to cooperate with a double cultivation, but there was a silent tacit understanding, it was easy for the two to enter the realm where they forgot everything. Gong Sunling only felt that her whole person had flew up and flew in the air and the light fluttering could not fall. The feeling of letting herself sink into it gave her supreme pleasure. She had never tried this feeling and Gong Sunling was a bit eager to stop but couldn't. Compared with Yang Chen, Gong Sunling's spiritual awareness cultivation base was very normal, almost close to the level of early Jidan stage. At the same time, the spiritual awareness between the two people run the highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra, and this time a slow Yang Chen spiritual awareness seemed to have found the exit to vent and madly rushed to the sea of consciousness of Gong Sunling. Gong Sunling's sea of consciousness was originally white and this moment, suddenly, there had been a change, the pure Kai rose, the foul Kai declined, and it directly became two distinct parts. The most amazing thing was that there was a solid land underneath and even a strange aura was felt in the land, just like the most original Earth attribute aura. At this time, neither of them cared about these, just immersed in the kind of tacit understanding and pleasure that came from the spiritual awareness double cultivation of the two people and no longer separated. Bao Yu had a silent and uninterrupted appearance not far from the two and seemed to be protecting the two. Just, looking at Yang Chen and Gong Sunling's current position, Gong Sunling was held in the arms of Yang Chen and she was holding Yang Chen's neck and carrying Yang Chen's waist. She didn't know how, Gao Yu felt such an indescribable sorrow and grief. This was because Yang Chen's body shape had changed. Gao Yu had told herself this way, but her eyes couldn't help but stare at the two people, seemingly afraid of what they would be doing further. After watching it for a long time, Gao Yu realized that it was not right. She shook her head slightly and found a place to sit down. She guarded the two from far away. Soon Gao Yu thought of a problem. Now Gong Sunling and Yang Chengxiu used such a shameful posture. After that if Yang Chen's body shape was unchanged. When her and Yang Chen were double cultivating, would he still want to use this posture? How could this be? They were master and apprentice. Gao Yu's heart suddenly became stunned and this problem in front of her made her start to entangle. Even when she saw Yang Chen and Gong Sunling's cultivation this time, she threw the grievance from her mind and it became filled with this problem. For the first time when cultivating the double cultivation highest mystery Yin-Yang Heart Sutra, it took a very long time. Gao Yu and Yang Chen lasted for at least a few months. Of course, there was a big part of the time when Yang Chen was healing for Gao Yu. Gong Sunling and Yang Chen certainly did not have the trouble of healing, but even so, the two people took the first double cultivation, which took a full 2 months. It was not a simple matter to balance the gap between the spiritual awareness of a late Yuning stage and the spiritual awareness at the foundation stage. It was a long process. The two maintained this position for a full 2 months, they were motionless. The kind of sensation of Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was finally slower and slower and eventually ceased and the spiritual awareness of Gong Sunling began to rise wildly. The peak foundation stage, the early Jidan, the middle Jidan stage, the late Jidan stage, the peak Jidan stage, the early Yuning stage, the spiritual awareness cultivation base of Gong Sunling was simply like an irresistible force, made a crazy improvement all the way. After successive breakthroughs in several realms it stopped at the early Yuning stage. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was also reduced again from the late Yuning stage to the middle Yuning stage, the early Yuning stage. After reaching the initial Yuning stage, it would not change again. This time, the two people's spiritual awareness cultivation base was basically adjusted to the same realm. But in essence it was slightly different. Gong Sunling was only trained to forcibly upgrade to the early Yuning stage, but Yang Chen's sea of consciousness was once again confined and compressed, and the spiritual awareness was now like a sturdy iron rope, which became more and more tough. Finally, both of them stopped doing their double cultivation, and their foreheads that was put together was also separated. However, the wonderful feelings from the double cultivation process had made both of them feel a little bit unfinished and they were still in the aftertaste. In particular, Gong Sunling experienced such a wonderful pleasure and her body was still in the arms of Yang Chen, posing such a shameful posture. The bonus was that she would soon reach solidifying core and she was still ashamed of herself. She buried her face in the neck of Yang Chen, no longer dared to look up. There was a coughing sound from the side and the two people who were relishing became awakened. Gong Sunling couldn't help but look red and hurriedly jumped up from Yang Chen, flashed aside, looked up and saw the face of Gao Yu with a smile. She did not dare to look at Gao Yu again and she hurriedly bowed her head. Yang Chen was a little thick-skinned, always sitting there, his face had not changed. In addition to the aftertaste of the double cultivation, Yang Chen was still checking his own changes in his spiritual awareness. This time, the double cultivation seemed to be more effective. The spiritual awareness had been confined. Yang Chen even had a conception that even if the golden bell in his body was rung again, he would not stun himself. His own spiritual awareness had become fully capable of fighting against the bell and no longer had to worry that he would become dizzy from using his own Protect Yan magic weapon. How's the effect? Gao Yu, who was next to Yang Chen, did not speak for a long time. She couldn't help but anxiously ask in a loud voice. Even Gong Sunling was worried about it and raised her head. If it was useless, isn't it a waste of their double cultivation and it still made Yang Chen's spiritual awareness to fall crazily. I'm fine. Yang Chen looked up and replied to the two women who cared about him, but he began to think about how to face the two women in the future. Gong Sunling's move was obviously arranged by Gao Yu and Gong Sunling herself did not resist. It was obvious that the two women were already in an offensive and defensive alliances. This was beyond doubt. Yang Chen had some headaches. In this way, he would have to owe a lot to Gong Sunling. Yang Chen, who had not had any experience in this kind of thing, once again fell into the troubles of happiness. The insufficient present was obviously not the time to get entangled with this, otherwise it would hurt the hearts of two women at the same time. Yang Chen understood this, so the answer was very fast, and then he said. Thank you master, thank you sister. These two thanks was obviously to the two women for secretly discussing behind his back and help him solve the problem. The two girls listened to Yang Chen, they were all ecstatic and they did not hide their happiness. How does sister feel now? Yang Chen could know the changes in his spiritual awareness and could clearly understand the changes in the spiritual awareness of Gong Sunling, but couldn't know the feeling of Gong Sunling, so he asked. I am very good. Gong Sunling immediately explored her own sea of consciousness and immediately became scared. The spiritual awareness have soared so much and at the same time, she was also shocked by Yang Chen's spiritual awareness. After she had double cultivation to balance herself, she could improve herself so much. How strong was it before? No wonder that Yang Chen had done many things that seemed impossible to accomplish before. With such powerful spiritual awareness, he could do a lot of unbelievable things. Of course, for Gong Sunling, the cultivation base of her spiritual awareness suddenly rose to the early wielding stage and she was more sure about attacking the solidifying core and no longer had to worry about any risks. Yang Chen solved his trouble, the two women felt a very heart-wrenching happiness, that kind of happiness, it seemed that they could be more happy than they were, so that Yang Chen was grateful and secretly swore in his heart never to let the two women receive any pains. Sister, there is a cultivation method which may be suitable for your current cultivation. When he suddenly remembered something, Yang Chen said to Gong Sunling. After cultivating it, maybe it will be easier to reach solidifying core. At the same time, the two women were stunned. The things on Yang Chen's body were endless, but everyone thought that he had read many miscellaneous books. They didn't expect him to have any cultivation method. Gong Sunling took a piece of jade from Yang Chen with some surprise and her spiritual awareness began to explore it. Fifth Earth True Secret Art. The sound of surprise broke out from the mouth of Gong Sunling. As an Earth attribute cultivator, how could she not know what it was? Although Yang Chen gave her this, but there was a feeling of it being really untrue. Bao Yu next to them was immediately stunned. It was only recently that she got the 10th Water True Secret Art and 10th Water True Essence from Yang Chen because her own spiritual awareness broke through the early wielding stage. It was not surprising that Gong Sunling was now the same. There is no 5th Earth True Essence, how can you let her cultivate it? The last time Yang Chen gave it to Gao Yu, even the 10th Water True Essence was given together. Now Yang Chen only gave the 5th Earth True Secret Art, but there was no 5th Earth True Essence. Wouldn't it be difficult for Gongling? This disciple has already cultivated the 5th Earth True Secret Art. Yang Chen raised his hand with a smile, and the two women found a purely incomparable Earth attribute aura from Yang Chen's finger. Yang Chen explained. It is not easy to get the Earth True Essence, and senior sister can absorb it directly from me. This was also a way to absorb directly from Yang Chen's body, and it could also save the trouble of refining it. the cultivation would be much more convenient. Moreover, Gong Sunling firmly believed that as long as she has cultivated the fifth earth true secret art, she could immediately condense Dan. However, Gong Sunling considered more than Gao Yu. When she heard Yang Chen's words, her face changed and she suddenly asked, "Is that what you were doing in the desolate valley?" At that time the greatest heaven sect harbored Chu Heng. For the sake of the fifth earth true essence, there were many arrangements in the desolate valley, but they were defeated in the past. Not only did they fight for a few hundred years, but even Chu Heng was killed. The fifth earth true essence was divided by several major factions, but there was no such thing as the greatest heaven sect anymore. Now Yang Chen had swaggering said that he had cultivated the fifth earth true secret art, and when the greatest heaven sect was in trouble in the desolate valley, Yang Chen was present. The first reaction of Gong Sunling was that it was related to Yang Chen. It seemed that Yang Chen also brought back Shi Kui and Xia Sha from the desolate valley. It was simply suspicious. "Master, senior sister has a few things in mind, no need to publicizes." Yang Chen did not deny it and just reminded. Gong Sunling had no idea how to describe himself as an apprentice. When the desolate valley was in trouble, Yang Chen was an early foundation stage disciple and dared to do such a long-term thing in a lot of Yuning stage masters. She didn't know if he was a bold person or if he had a good luck. In her shock, it was inevitable that Gong Sunling would force Yang Chen to make clear the situation at the time. She began to clearly remember that Yang Chen had not cared about the Chu Heng. Later, Chu Heng was insulting Gao Yu and Yang Chen was angry and chased him. She must know the details of this. Gao Yu had heard it before, but when she listened to Yang Chen again, she still couldn't help but feel warm. This Yang Chen for her to chase Chu Heng, for her, listening to it for how many times, and she would not be bored. Gong Sunling was the first to understand the inside story. The whole process of it shocked Gong Sunling. After listening to it, she made a burst of exclamation. This junior brother Yang, the surprise he gave her was too much. However, Gong Sunling would like to know more about Yang Chen. This kind of mentality had not been understood by Gong Sunling herself. She wanted to ask again, but she was blocked by Gao Yu. Now Yang Chen and Gong Sunling were on the verge of the solidifying core. Yang Chen was okay, but Gong Sunling couldn't feel too excited, otherwise it would affect her cultivation. Gao Yu was the master of Yang Chen. Of course, Yang Chen and Gong Sunling would not have any opinions. Of course, throwing away the identity of this master, Gong Sunling had another respect for Gao Yu, but this could not be shown in front of Yang Chen. "How is your body size getting bigger?" Yang Chen has been sitting, and there was another reason, that was, his underwear has been smashed, and he does not dare to get up. On the side of Gao Yu, she quickly asked Yang Chen and throw a piece of animal skin clothes that had already been prepared at the time when she was guarding them. The problem of the cultivation method. Seeing that both women turned around, Yang Chen quickly replaced the broken clothes and replied. "When I have small accomplishments in my cultivation method, I can return to normal." "Didn't your build surprise Sun Qingxu and Shai Shanshan when they saw you?" Gao Yu asked very curiously. Yang Chen thought of this. It seemed that after changing his body shape, he went to see Sun Qingxu and Shai Shanshan. The two women were not particularly surprised. He didn't know if they don't care about how Yang Chen's body shape would become or whether there were similar body refining technique in the big sects, so they were not surprised at all. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 272. Extreme Power. However, this issue was not known for the time being. What was important now was to let Gong Sunling cultivate the fifth earth true secret art. The fifth earth true essence in the body of Yang Chen was not in the same way as before. This inevitably required two people to cooperate with the cultivation. At least before Gong Sunling absorbed enough fifth earth true essence, Yang Chen had to accompany her to cultivate, and the fifth earth true essence in his body were to be released for the use of Gong Sunling. It seemed that Gong Sunling was very happy. She didn't know if it was because of the reason for getting back to cultivate or because of Yang Chen's companionship. What surprised Yang Chen was that until now, Gao Yu did not cultivate the 10th water true secret art. Before, because of Yang Chen's spiritual awareness issues, Gao Yu was afraid that Yang Chen would break out at some point and he could not take care of himself because of his work, so she had never cultivated. His master's affection, Yang Chen's heart was warm, but now, Yang Chen could almost certainly not have problems before the solidifying core, so Gao Yu cultivation of the 10th water true secret art, it was put on the agenda. Now that both women had spiritual awareness double cultivation with Yang Chen, they would no longer avoid anything and they would not cultivate separately. They would start cultivating in the same room. Before the cultivation, Yang Chen still used the control method of the Immortal's cave and moved 3 times more spiritual pulse to ensure that the three would never have the problem of lack of spiritual power during their cultivation. After explaining the experience of absorbing the 10th water true essence to Gao Yu in detail, He watched Gao Yu enter the state of cultivation. Yang Chen then turned around and explained the secrets of cultivating the fifth earth true secret art for Gong Sunling. Compared with the direct absorption of the fifth earth true essence, it was easier to absorb the fifth earth true essence from Yang Chen's cultivation. However, in the process of doing this, Yang Chen always had to hold hands with Gong Sunling, and the requirements for Yang Chen were higher. It couldn't be helped but say that Yang Chen's current body shape was too much of a hindrance to this kind of cultivation of holding hands. The muscles were too swollen and so large that the standard five-hearted posture has not been able to come out. Even the ordinary cross-legged ones can't be folded. They could only cultivate with a very casual sitting posture. If they wanted to hold their two hands together, they must be slightly closer to each other. Otherwise, it was Gong Sunling who had to bend over, that or Yang Chen had to bend over, no matter who it was, it would not be so comfortable. Yang Chen did not expect that he would have such drawbacks when he cultivated the yellow turban strongman body refining technique, but he could not solve it at the moment. Gong Sunling was generous. After face-to-face cultivation failed, Gong Sunling simply let Yang Chen open his double back legs and turned back to Yang Chen, directly sitting between Yang Chen's double back legs. In this way, it seemed that Gong Sunling was facing Yang Chen and sitting in his arms. The posture looked very embarrassing, but the problem of holding hands with each other was no longer a problem. During the cultivation, Yang Chen continued to slowly control his hands and output the fifth earth true essence and carefully control the speed of the output. If the output was too slow, Gong Sunling would fail to absorb the fifth earth true essence, and if the output was too fast, it would hurt Gong Sunling. Also in Yang Chen's experience, even if the past life did not cultivate the earth attribute method, but the control of the Great Principle Golden Immortal was still, but the uniform output of the control of spirit power output was not difficult. Even so, Yang Chen and Gong Sunling were careful to test the speed several times before they determined the speed of Yang Chen's best output. Then the two did not have any more distractions, so they entered the state of cultivation. With Yang Chen's cultivation of the fifth earth true secret art, the absorption of the fifth earth true essence would gradually grow back with his daily cultivation in his body, compared to the seed that Yang Chen absorbed at that time. Now it was not how many times bigger and stronger it had become. Gong Sunling just wanted to absorb enough of the fifth earth true essence to make seeds, instead of depriving Yang Chen of his cultivation base, so the obstacle to Yang Chen was not great. Since it was in line with Gong Sunling's cultivation, what Yang Chen had to do was only a simple output. Everyone knew that it was simple to absorb the fifth earth true essence from Yang Chen, but after all, it was still the fifth earth true essence, even if she had a spiritual awareness with a Wielding stage cultivation base, but Gong Sunling was still a low-level cultivator. This absorption was a matter of months. Gong Sunling's spiritual awareness just rose, and she was very unaccustomed to it yet. The Wielding stage spiritual awareness did not give her much help at first. At the beginning of the first full month, it was Gong Sunling who was adapting to this kind of change in her spiritual awareness. For Yang Chen this was also unexpected. With his experience of Great Principle Golden Immortal, of course, there was not much adaptation needed, but Gong Sunling had no such experience. It was not until 1 month later that she was able to gain control of it. The next process was considered to be on the right track. The fifth earth true essence in Yang Chen's body was absorbed into Gong Sunling's body and refining and blending instead of the original earth attribute spirit power. After half a year, Gong Sunling's fifth earth true secret art was finally completed and it was no longer necessary to absorb Yang Chen's fifth earth true essence and she could continue to grow it by herself. At this point, Yang Chen's task was thoroughly completed. It couldn't be helped, but said that the fifth earth true secret art was really strong and the most primitive glutinous fifth earth true essence that was absorbed by the fifth earth spirit power was not higher than the spiritual power strength of Gong Sunling's body by much. Just after the completion of the cultivation, the refining of the fifth earth true essence, it took Gong Sunling a full 2 days. Everything was natural. Gong Sunling originally had a peak foundation stage cultivation base and it was only a step away from going to enter the process of condensing Dan. After cultivating the fifth earth true essence, she immediately noticed the sudden change of the spiritual power in her body and naturally began to condense. The dramatic changes in the heaven and earth innate chi caused by the time of condensation were more than 100 times stronger than when building the foundation. The spiritual power around her was attracted by a black hole and it crazily gathered toward the body of Gong Sunling and even affected the Gao Yu not far away. At the moment, Gao Yu was also at the crucial moment of cultivating the 10th water true secret art. Fortunately, Yang Chen had woken up and quickly moved the 2 spiritual pulse in Immortal's cave to meet the needs of Gong Sunling so that Gao Yu would not be affected by big influences. The process of condensing Dan was not a one-time process. After the spiritual power condenses from a normal state into a small golden dance seed, it took a lot of time to stabilize the golden dance seed and then concentrate all the original spiritual powers into golden dan completely. This process would last at least a year. Both women were in the state of cultivation and Yang Chen naturally wanted to protect the two women. He couldn't cultivate other things himself. Naturally, he could only choose the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. In addition to cultivating, Yang Chen did not forget to look after the state of Xiaoyan. After leaving the treasure house of the Dragon Palace last time, Yang Chen had paid very little attention to Xiaoyan. After so many years, Xiaoyan had already absorbed the Dragon Kai absorbed in the treasure house of the Dragon Palace. The overall size was only slightly larger, but there was no such exaggeration as like Yang Chen. The many magic weapon fragments found from Immortal's cave by Yang Chen was almost already consumed cleanly. Xiaoyan liked that kind of fragments, nothing would suck a piece, it seemed that the pieces were used as snacks. Most of the time, Xiaoyan was still entrenched on the bright ray sword and the blood demon vine sword, playing and playing, while also nourishing the two flying swords. Now there was the sword embryo of the first wood flying sword. Yang Chen also put them together. Although the refining was not completed, there was always no harm. After playing with Xiaoyan, Yang Chen suddenly found a little change and it seemed that there were some vague patterns on its face. Although these patterns were not very obvious, they didn't seem to change the look of the Xiaoyan too much, but Yang Chen could guess something from the shape of the Xiaoyan attached to the weapon. These patterns, if you remove the head of today's Xiaoyan and imagine it, you would find that it was a fierce ghost head with a murderous aura. Perhaps this was some of the performances that showed that it had become mature after the absorption of those Dragon Kai. The Xiaoyan wolf dragon bloodline had only been stimulated for decades. Yang Chen did not expect it to grow into a terrifying power. Now it was beyond the expectation of Yang Chen. Being able to participate in the mature process of the Xiaoyan was also lucky for Yang Chen. After half a year, Gao Yu's cultivation was finally completed. The whole bottle of 10th water true essence was cleaned up by Gao Yu and the 10th water true secret art was also successfully cultivated. Originally Gao Yu was in the middle foundation stage, the 10th water true secret art was completed and the cultivation base was as strong as a bamboo and it was directly raised to the peak of the foundation stage. This time, the cultivation of Gao Yu was too fast. Yang Chen had to ask with seriousness that Gao Yu took a longer time to consolidate her cultivation base. The task of protecting was handed over to Gao Yu and Yang Chen could finally begin to cultivate. Fortunately, for the time being, Yang Chen does not need to be too troublesome as long as he absorbs the remaining third-grade fire seed. But the primary yin-yang heaven-burning fire that had grown to a certain level, the absorption of fire seeds could already be carried out automatically. Yang Chen only needed to pay attention to it a little. Most of the time, Yang Chen could also cultivate the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. As for the three purities secret art, Yang Chen did not intend to touch it again before the solidifying core so that his spiritual awareness could not be increased to an uncontrollable level. On one hand, it was the vision of the heaven and earth phenomenon caused by Gong Sunling, but on the other hand, Yang Chen leisurely indulged in the absorption of flames and cultivated the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. Gao Yu next to them was carefully protecting them, it was a very calm scene. Gong Sunling was worthy of being a talented cultivation genius. In just a few months, her body has already erupted with a golden dan and it was getting stronger and stronger. Gao Yu, who has had experience in condensing dan, knew that she was now getting better and better and she was very happy for her. Yang Chen does not have such a performance as Gong Sunling. Instead, bones kept coming out of his body and the muscles of the body were already developed. You could even see Yang Chen's muscles strengthening during the cultivation. When thinking about the embarrassing posture of Gong Sunling and Yang Chen's acquaintance, Gao Yu couldn't help but smile and shook her head, but then her face turned red. If this was the case in the future, if she wanted to have double cultivation with Yang Chen, would she not use that shameful posture? Yang Chen, who was immersed in the cultivation, did not pay attention to the surroundings. Here were all people he absolutely trusts, there was nothing to guard against. The absorption speed of the third-grade fire seed was much faster. The cultivation of the yellow turban strongman body refining technique seems to have reached a key point. As long as this shackles was broken through, the goal of the first layer of the yellow turban strongman body refining technique could be completed. In the description of the refining technique, after the completion of the first refining body, the practitioner would be able to achieve the power of the 300,000 jin strength. Of course, the size would become a huge body that could bear the power of 300,000 jin. But the sound of the bones, Yang Chen's muscles finally expanded to a critical point. Turbulent, Yang Chen's whole body and muscles slammed into a loud explosion, and all the movement stopped. Gao Yu discovered the abnormality of Yang Chen at the first time. She was about to rush over, but she saw that Yang Chen had opened his eyes and stood up. "Be careful, you are still absorbing the flame." Gao Yu was startled greatly. What Yang Chen was doing, she was of course clear about it. Seeing that Yang Chen actually stood up despite the absorption of the flame, she could not help but be shocked. "It is all right, master, I still controlling it." Yang Chen smiled at his master and gestured. His body started to move. Just a very casual twisted neck, shaking his wrist, Yang Chen's body made a strange noise, giving a strange sense of power. Yes, the sense of power. Gao Yu thought that Yang Chen was just standing there was an oppression that cannot be ignored. The already sturdy body was like a hill, as if it was between the hands and the feet, he could have the power of a thunderous 300,000 jin. What made Gao Yu not know whether to laugh or cry was that when Yang Chen now stretched out his arm, the thickest part was as thick as the waist of Gao Yu, and even more than some. When Gao Yu and Yang Chen stood together, she was already very petite. After others ask, you have to tell them clearly, your refining technique was not taught by me. Gao Yu, who loved beauty, looked at Yang Chen's body like a gorilla and couldn't help but feel a little angry. This was because if people misunderstand the refining technique she taught had such an effect, how would that make Gao Yu behave? Of course, master is so beautiful, how can she teach such a refining technique? Yang Chen said with a smile. How did you stop? After complaining about Yang Chen, Gao Yu asked again. The body refining technique first layer is completed. Yang Chen smiled and replied it have the power of 300,000 jin. It was said that he had the power of 300,000 jin, but Yang Chen knew that his body had more strength than a 300,000 jin. When starting cultivation, his starting point was higher than the average yellow turban strongman, and the effect of the cultivation was naturally better than the ordinary yellow turban strongman. According to Yang Chen's estimate, he could now have almost 500,000 jin of strength, or a lot. This kind of power, let alone the ordinary Jitan master, even the strength of a Yuning master controlling a flying sword, could not reach it. Bao Yu heard it on the spot. The power of 300,000 jin, does it mean that even if Yang Chen does not have the slightest spiritual power from his cultivation base and relying on brute force, could he hold his bright ray sword and compete with a master who was in a higher realm than him? Bao Yu, now an apprentice of her own, had become increasingly obscured to her. Judging from the performance of the past, Yang Chen also passed on his own highest mystery Yin Yang Heart Sutra and 10th Water True Secret Art to her, out of the two people who was the master and who was the apprentice. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 273. Condensing Dan. Although he was curious about how much power he had, Yang Chen still couldn't test it. He was absorbing the fire seed, and secondly, not far away from them, Gong Sunling was condensing her Dan, and it was not so wonderful to disturb her. After Gong Sunling's spiritual awareness double cultivation, Yang Chen's condensed spiritual awareness reached a point that was jaw-dropping. The third-grade fire seed that previously enabled Yang Chen to improve, now could no longer achieve the original effect. Perhaps Yang Chen's primary yin-yang heaven-burning fire had already packaged enough third-grade fire seeds. After Yang Chen's completed the absorption of a third-grade fire this time, it's not as it used to be, the spiritual awareness had not skyrocketed, but it had risen a bit. At best Yang Chen's early Yuning stage spiritual awareness was raised to the peak of the early Yuning stage. With the probing of this kind of fire seed, Yang Chen was overjoyed, at least in accordance with such a situation, he could at least absorb the fire seed to reach the solidifying core and did not have to worry about the splitting of his spiritual awareness. As for the solidifying core, for the time being, there would be no big trouble, after all, he had raised a big realm. The yin-yang heaven-burning fire had not changed much for the time being from absorbing the third-grade fire seed, but the two fire dragons in the Sea of Consciousness had become much larger. It was originally possible to blur the head and tail, but now it was clear, but the distance of the two fire dragons was still far away. Yang Chen did not stop and continued again. There were still several kinds of fire seeds in the profound spirit furnace, which could almost balance the third fire and fourth fire. Yang Chen would certainly not waste time and continue to absorb it. Time couldn't be saved, but he could save his energy. Yang Chen did not expect the yin-yang heaven-burning fire to have this kind of benefit, the leisurely self-cultivation of the yellow turban strongman body refining technique in the process of absorbing the flame. The yellow turban strongman body refining technique, Yang Chen, had completed the first layer and was now entering the second stage. It was unfortunate that the first layer and the second layer was the refining of the practitioner's body to the most developed stage of the muscles. This also meant that Yang Chen's current body shape would last for a long time. However, for the time being, Yang Chen does not seem to reject such a body. It was because of this type of body that Gong Sunling had to adopt a very warm posture when she cooperated with Yang Chen. Although Yang Chen does not have much thought of it, it does not exclude the feeling when the two were in close contact. If he changed to a double cultivation with his master, was it necessary to make such a warm posture with his master? Yang Chen was suddenly looking forward to it, looking forward to having a spiritual awareness double cultivation with his master once again. In Yang Chen's unreasonable expectation, Gong Sunling's process of congestion was finally completed. At the moment of completion, it once again triggered a huge heaven and earth phenomenon. The heaven and earth spirit power quickly gathered on Gong Sunling's body for a long time, and this stopped. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations came from the mouths of Gao Yu and Yang Chen. Gong Sunling opened her eyes and did not get up. She heard the voices of the two people. Thank you, and master, thank you, junior brother Yang. Gong Sunling certainly knew why the two were here, they were all protecting her, so she immediately thanked them. Speaking of it, Gong Sunling was the first of the small groups of Yang Chen to promote to a Jidan master. Gao Yu's water attribute spirit power cultivation was somewhat late and being at the peak of the foundation stage was already outstanding, but she still could not catch up with Gong Sunling. Whether it was Gong Sunling or Gao Yu, both women were considered to be in a new realm and they needed to consolidate their cultivation base for a long time. In particular, Gong Sunling who had just condensed her Dan, it would take less than 10 years to consolidate her cultivation base, which would have an impact on her future cultivation. Yang Chen's current state does not require the two women to protect him. The two women also knew that they couldn't help him. They made an appointment to come see him when he entered the Jidan stage and left Yang Chen alone. Alone on the side, Yang Chen was more heartwarming while absorbing the fire seed and continued to cultivate the body refining technique. The absorption of the fire seed was automatic, but Yang Chen was now somewhat worried. In his previous life, he had just a spiritual power solidifying core, but now, Yang Chen had to face two kinds of fire attributes and the solidifying core at the same time. What kind of abnormality would there be? This question does not require Yang Chen to consider for long, as Yang Chen would soon have to face it. After continuing to absorb the two types of the third-grade fire seeds, Yang Chen discovered that his own spiritual awareness cultivation base had once again rose to the middle Yuning stage. Next, he absorbed another two kinds of the third-grade fire seeds, this time, it finally pushed Yang Chen to the edge of the solidifying core. Boom, the two fire dragons in his body suddenly changed tremendously at this moment. The fire dragons formed by the yin-yang heaven-burning fire suddenly began to tighten rapidly and soon became two pocket-sized fire dragon. The two small fire dragons were still purple and azure, just in the spiritual awareness of Yang Chen they quickly shrunk into two small fire groups like sesame. This was a harbinger of the solidifying core, the seeds of the two golden dans had begun to form and the next step was the process of Yang Chen's nourishment and growth of the golden dan. The process of condensing dan was familiar to Yang Chen, but at the same time condensing two golden dans Yang Chen did not expect it. However, Yang Chen's mentality was firm and resolute. Naturally, he was not too surprised. Two of them were two. Anyway, his yin-yang 5 phases secrets had 10 kinds of spiritual powers and he had not felt that they would be normal. Surrounded by the spiritual power, the two golden dans were injected. The seeds of the two sesame-sized seeds gradually increased with the influx of spiritual power. However, the speed of the increase could almost be comparable to that of a snail, or even worse. Such a huge supply of spiritual power, even Yang Yang's feeling has increased a little bit. If he wanted to reach the normal minimum of the egg size, such a day must take at least 1 year. Fortunately, Yang Chen's yin-yang heaven-burning fire golden dan was different from other people's golden dan and it could still be quickly supplemented by swallowing fire seeds. And just as it was, Yang Chen still had a lot of third-grade fire seeds. The golden dan seed had been formed. When the flame in the profound spirit furnace touched Yang Chen's hand, it automatically turned into a purple light or an azure light into the Jidan seed. With the spiritual power perfusion and flame phagocytosis, the golden dan began to nourish and grow at twice the growth rate of ordinary Jidan seeds. What surprised Yang Chen was that the two Jidan seeds could absorb two kinds of third-grade fire seeds at the same time, and the third fire and fourth fire was absorbed at the same time, the speed was doubled. In his own body, Yang Chen's spiritual power was 10 times more than that of others. At this time, the double Jidan seeds were molded and the spiritual power absorbed was at least twice as large as that of ordinary people. For a time, the spiritual power of the surrounding spiritual veins was almost absorbed by Yang Chen like a long whale absorbing water, sucking it all into his body insanely. If someone was next to him, they would find that Yang Chen has now become a huge black hole. The spiritual power of a few spiritual veins and with the crazy speed of Yang Chen's gathering, even if they were by his side, it would be impossible to absorb any spiritual power here. The 2 golden dance seeds and the same Jindan seeds of the same fire attribute under the yin-yang heaven burning fire also showed the fearful ability to absorb spiritual power during the seed period. The enormous spiritual power entered Yang Chen's body, and after the simple absorption of the yin-yang 5-element secrets, it came directly to the 2 Jindan seeds in the Danshan of Yang Chen. At this time, whether it was the fire attribute or other attributes, the Jindan seeds seemed to be hungry and had not eaten, all were absorbed. When Gao Yu and Gong Sunling came back to see Yang Chen, they found that he was already nourishing the Jindan seeds. Finally, he was in the process of condensing Dan. The 2 women did not say anything, they sat and watched from far away acting as protectors. This nourishment, Yang Chen absorbed all the 3rd grade fire seeds. After more than a year time, the Jindan seeds were finally nourished and grown to the size of plums. At this point, the nourishment process was completely over. At the end of the day, the heaven and earth spirits rioted again, almost for 3 full hours. Compared with Gong Sunling, it would be more than half the time. After the formation of the Golden Dan, the fire attribute spiritual power seemed to be directly compressed by 10 times, and even the speed of the overall absorption of spiritual power was almost at least 3 or 4 times faster. The Jindan stage was essentially different from the foundation stage. The change of the Sea of Consciousness seemed to be the least obvious, and even the 2 fire dragons were still 2 fire dragons. However, the change was not obvious compared to the previous appearance, not the essence. At the time of the outbreak of spiritual power, Yang Chen's Sea of Consciousness was like the Jindan seed. It quickly shrank and was compressed at least 3 times. The original 150-acre sea was almost reduced to 50 acres, according to the original proportion. Then, it was the process of madly absorbing Yang Chen's spiritual awareness, it returned to its original size. However, in terms of density, the current Sea of Consciousness was at least several times the original. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness rose again when he entered the Jindan realm. From the middle Yuaning stage, the late Yuaning stage, it directly rose to the peak of the Yuaning stage. The compression of the Sea of Consciousness also meant the further improvement of the quality of the spiritual awareness. At this time, his peak Yuaning stage spiritual awareness it was not known how strong it was as compared to that of Yang Chen's spiritual awareness cultivation base before the double cultivation. At this time, even if the golden bell directly hits Yang Chen would not be affected. The 3 purities secret art plus the highest mystery yin-yang heart sutra cultivated spiritual awareness and the ordinary spiritual awareness had a world of difference. The 3rd grade fire seed had completely failed to make Yang Chen's fire attribute spiritual power level upgrade, and even the effect on the spiritual awareness was limited. If he wanted to continue to absorb the fire seeds to upgrade, he needed at least 4th grade fire seeds. It was a pity that when it came to the 4th grade fire seeds, it was already a precious fire seed. Most fire cultivators would choose to stay and use it. Very few people would sell it. Even if it was sold, it was also in the internal auction of the major sects. Although the Pure Yang Palace made a promise of giving him large number of spirit stones and sect contribution points, he did not receive the 4th grade fire seeds or above fire seeds. For Yang Chen, who already had several kinds of 5th grade fire seeds in his hand, the 4th grade fire seeds was not too precious, but unfortunately, for the yin-yang heaven burning fire, the 4th grade fire seeds was a must. The upgrade of the yin-yang heaven burning fire cannot be skipped to a certain level. Just as it was formed at the beginning, although there had been several kinds of 3rd grade fire seeds, it still needed to be formed by the 90 and 81 of the 3rd fire and 4th fire respectively. He continued to absorb the fire seeds of all grades, for a long time, it would be something that Yang Chen must do. Fortunately, Yang Chen was now a small and famous alchemy master. As long as he was willing to come up with some high-grade medicinal pills, it was not a big problem to exchange for some fire seeds. If Yang Chen was willing to exchange with the Askiner heart pill, maybe even the 6th grade fire seeds could be used to exchange for it. For some masters, the masters of the Daching stage like Wu Xiong, the 5th grade True Moon fire really was not a difficult thing to get. The only thing they needed was to know where there was such a kind of fire seed. It was not a problem at all. In addition to the spirit power of the fire attribute, the other spirit powers of the various departments with the simultaneous 3rd fire and 4th fire and the success of the solidifying core, they were once again upgraded and quickly upgraded to the 9th layer of the foundation stage. There were only one step away and it would enter the peak of the foundation stage. When the surrounding spiritual power calmed down slowly, Yang Chen finally opened his eyes slowly. When his spiritual awareness thread searched around, Yang Chen felt that it was different from the foundation stage. The scope had been expanded several times directly. As long as he concentrated, Yang Chen could clearly perceive the movements within a few dozen miles and was more sensitive than before. The 3 purities secret art was indeed wonderful, which made Yang Chen even more strange. The Grand Supreme Elderly Lord who cultivated the three purities secret art would not be aware of the actions of the rebels. Was it true that all the rebels had similar actions? Did all of them have things like the sea-pouring jasper cup to protect their whole body so that their spiritual awareness couldn't detect it? This was obviously impossible. If this kind of thing was everywhere, it would too cheap and it was worthy for the old Dragon King to collect in the treasure house. Well, the only possibility was that there was another hidden truth. On this issue, Yang Chen would not go into depth of it for the time being, nor would he have the ability to delve into it now. Could the people in the mortal world manage the matters of the heavenly court? What was important was that in his previous life he achieved solidifying core only after more than 300 years of cultivation. In this life, Yang Chen only used 80 years. Yang Chen entered the Jitan realm, and Gao Yu was even more happy than when she raised her own realm. The only thing that made both women dissatisfied was that Yang Chen's body was so robust because of the cultivation of the yellow turban strongman body refining technique. The reason was that his present build was grandiose and was simply a sturdy and boorish man. If they walked with him they would have a feeling of having no face. After the general people's situation changes, their overall temperament also changed. Although Yang Chen had entered the golden core stage from the foundation stage, there was no change except for his body type. Yang Chen was still the same as Yang Chen, and there was no slight change in his tone of his speech. "Master, it's up to you." Yang Chen now challenged Gao Yu, who had not yet entered the Jitan stage. "Look at how fast you are, or some of my other attribute spiritual power is faster." Gao Yu herself was a fire attribute Golden Dan. Now her water attribute was about to enter the Jitan stage. Naturally, Yang Chen's words were not bragging. Immediately, her eyelashes flashed an responded, then waits and sees. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 274. 2 Revolutions Ask Inner Heart Pill. This time, the seclusion had been for 15 years. Yang Chen had said that he would never leave unless he reached solidifying core stage. For Yang Chen's decision, several elders of the Pure Yang Palace, including the head of the palace, agreed. Yang Chen was now their star of hope and everyone had the meaning of letting him take over the post of Pure Yang Palace Act Master. He went into seclusion in the Pure Yang Palace and his safety was absolutely guaranteed. At least not a few big shots had to worry about it. The retreat of the 3 people this time was not like that of ordinary people. For others to retreat, they could not always be in the state of cultivation with warmth and a nourished spiritual power, then break through their shackles and enter a higher realm. But for Yang Chen, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, the retreat was not so boring. They didn't only follow the normal cultivation. The consolidation will continue and the 2 women could even go outside the security line to fight monsters. This kind of retreat made many people who saw it feel profound unfairness. Yang Chen counted on his fingers that the previous time he said he would refine a Ask Inner Heart pill was 40 years ago. Yang Chen said long ago that he had to refine a furnace after 30 years, that now had to be delayed for 10 more years. Just like the pill success, Yang Chen still needed to consolidate his realm, and Gao Yu was still at the last step. It would take a period of consolidation to continue to impact the solidifying core stage. He simply did not need to go out, he just needed to refine a Ask Inner Heart pill in the middle of the Immortal's cave. This time, the 3 people were concentrated in the portal of the Golden Dan period. It was the first time that Yang Chen came in. It was not much different from the foundation stage, but the spiritual power was much richer. Surprisingly, among the caves, there were several alchemy rooms in the portal of the Golden Dan period, which was suitable for Yang Chen's alchemy. In the pill rooms, it was unknown where some of the underground fire veins were located. Although it was not like a heart fire, it was the most suitable for some kinds of medicinal refining. Yang Chen did not need these fire veins. He had an alchemy furnace and various kinds of fire seeds. All he wanted was this place. The 2 women knew that he would not be in danger within the safety line, so there was no need to protect him. Once again, they would fight out with the puppets and monsters. While accumulating experience, they also wanted to consolidate their own cultivation base. Especially Gao Yu, although her fire attribute spiritual power had already achieved solidifying core, but her water attribute spiritual power was still stuck at the peak of the foundation stage. The water attributed spiritual power used here to fight presented an almost leapfrog challenge. Every victory over a monster, for Gao Yu, was a new process of knowing herself. Both his spiritual power and spiritual awareness was much higher than when the last time he refined the Ask Inner Heart pill. In addition, the spiritual power here was abundant, making the Ask Inner Heart pill refining experience more comfortable. Not only that, the grade of the profound spirit furnace had been improved by at least several grades compared to the last refining. The efficiency of refining had almost increased several times. Since it was necessary to refine the Ask Inner Heart pill, Yang Chen simply intended to refine some of them. In addition to handing some over to the sect, he intended to save some. For others, the Ask Inner Heart pill was an incredible pill. For him, it was just the time to reinforce his cultivation base and keep the snack supplements for himself. The medicinal materials that were put into the profound spirit furnace at least were twice as much as the last refining of the Ask Inner Heart pill. Yang Chen now had the confidence to control more herbs. The 4C's mysterious coral liquid could ensure that there would be no big leaks during the process of the alchemy. However, Yang Chen did not add it, and there was no benefit to his skill in this challenging alchemy process. As long as Yang Chen was ready, just in case. This process of refining was far more relaxed than the last time. At the same time, the amount of medicinal materials was 3 times more. It was still successfully completed without any twists and turns. However, Yang Chen did not stop there, but continued to start the refining of the second revolution. Ask Inner Heart pill was one of the medicinal pills that Yang Chen knew. There were a few high-grade medicinal pills that were suitable for mortal cultivators to use to challenge the 2 revolutions refining system. If someone else knew that Yang Chen was actually refining the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill at this time, it was estimated that he would immediately stop it. Not to mention anything else, it's just a round of resurgence of the medicinal materials that have been maturing for thousands of years. Once the 2 revolution system fails, what kind of loss would it be? Usually, even if some senior alchemist masters had this mentality to challenge the 2 revolutions and even turn higher, the distress of the raw materials in their hands would make them discouraged. Just like the last time, Deng Yi and Zhu Peng, even He Lianyan, wanted to refine the 2 revolutions heaven-seizing pill, but it still wasn't an option. The medicinal materials available were only enough for one such pill which were already used up. Where was the opportunity to risk carrying out 2 revolutions refining? Only a rich and powerful person like Yang Chen in the whole wide world would do such a thing. Of course, only Yang Chen would have this kind of temperament and mentality that was not afraid of refinement failure, even if he loses a lot. This was very important. The more one didn't care about these spirit medicines, the less one could be influenced by their value and thus could display own proficiency to its highest extent or even surpass it. Yang Chen really did not care about this spirit medicine. Naturally, there was not much pressure on him. Under this mentality, the process of refining was extremely smooth. Occasional mistakes in the middle of the road caused a loss of a few Ask Inner Heart pills, but he remained perfectly precise in controlling the whole process. The 2 revolution system directly consumed the entire 2 years of Yang Chen's time, resulting in an even longer refining period. It was something that everyone could understand. After all, Yang Chen's refining system was already familiar and easy to him, while the 2 revolutions refining system was challenging and the difficulty was even higher. For this level of the medicinal pill, whether it was spiritual power or the maturity, it had to be at least twice as high as the 1 revolution refinement. After the 2 revolutions refining was successfully applied, dozens of round 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pills could be found in the pill furnace. Yang Chen began to hesitate, should he bite his teeth and spend some 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pills to challenge the 3 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill. The 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill was the limit that Yang Chen's present cultivation base could challenge. When this hesitation came into his heart, he knew that it was time to give up. He didn't have such mentality even with alchemy to risk certain failure. Moreover, if he sent the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill out, it would enough to shock the world. If he really wanted to come up with the 3 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill, it would definitely make some sects feel restless. Pooh. Yang Chen took a relieved breath. In the elderly Lord Pill Scripture, the methods of collecting the pills had been described one by one. The cover on the mouth of the profound spirit furnace flew, and Yang Chen began the process of collecting the pills. This time, ample spiritual power ripples, centered on the profound spirit furnace, slammed into the surroundings and filled the entire space with a swift momentum. This spiritual power carried a momentum that allowed people to calm down. Wherever they went, no matter what kind of monster, they stood directly in the same place dumbfounded. At that moment, all the monsters' minds were empty and elusive, and there was nothing to fight for. Bao Yu and Gong Sunling of course immediately noticed this aura. When the spiritual power swept over, the monsters who fought with them slammed down and suddenly stopped fighting and became calm. The same was true for the 2 women themselves, but their understanding of the spiritual awareness was still stronger than all the Jitan realm monsters here. Yang Chen's alchemy did not elude them. They immediately realized that Yang Chen's alchemy was completed. Hurrying back to Yang Chen's alchemy room, the 2 women saw Yang Chen sitting on the side of the stone table in the yard, laughing while drinking the jade dragon wine while waiting for them. On the table, there was also a plate of peeled profound yang fruit that served as a side dish for the wine. He looked very laid back. Did you refine the Ask Inner Heart pill? Gong Sunling asked as they met. Yang Chen smiled and nodded but did not talk much. He only indicated that the two women sat around the table and found two jade cups from his Qianqin bag to fill up for them. It seemed that 1,000 years profound yang fruit was not enough for 3 people to taste the wine. In the hands of Yang Chen, there was a ginseng and a sealwort of more than 1,000 years. In his hand, the sword light flashed a few times, and there were 2 more slices of ginseng and sealwort on the table. Unfortunately, there is nothing good to condiment, otherwise it could be made more delicious. Yang Chen slightly regretted with a sigh, then picked up the glass. "Master, sister, let's celebrate." Listening to Yang Chen's words, the 2 women were speechless. A few thousand years old ginseng, a millennium old sealwort, a few thousand years old profound yang fruit, the things which he just took out so casually, extraordinary things that could make people break their heads for. Here, they had become a morning wine dish for Yang Chen, but he still sighed that the taste was still not very good. If some people knew that Yang Chen was ruining precious things like this, they would rush up to beat Yang Chen. At least Gao Yu and Gong Sunling had such an impulse. Yang Chen was actually not showing off, it was really like this when he knew that there was another gateway in the medicine garden, many other such millennial elixirs being on the other side was not so unimaginable. So, due to the quantity available, for Yang Chen, they had turned ordinary, be it for eating or drinking, he didn't feel any hindrance for the contrary. "Do you like delicious food?" Gao Yu couldn't ignore Yang Chen's behavior and said. He had such an extravagant hobby that she couldn't help but ask with her eyes shining brightly. "Of course, I like it." Yang Chen nodded. He used to be in a situation of urgent cultivation. There was not much time to ponder these things. But now that the solidification of the core had been successful, there was a lot of time to squander around, and naturally he would do so. During his previous life he also tasted some of the best of delicacies in the heavenly court, to be honest, those masters did not exclude such enjoyment. Blind cultivation was sometimes not the key to becoming a master. On the contrary, the right way was to balance relaxation with it. Due to Yang Chen's kindness, of course, the 2 women would not waste such an opportunity. Not long ago, the 2 women fought for a long time, and these precious things could just restore their losses. What's more, his alchemy success was naturally worth the celebration. The wine had been drunk for a few cups, and both women were somewhat overwhelmed. Yang Chen later secretly swapped 4C's mysterious coral liquid with the wine distiller's yeast for the women, giving them another service. When the 2 women woke up from the deep sleep, they did not know what had happened, but soon they realized. Such a precious thing as the 4C's mysterious coral liquid was brought to them by Yang Chen, such a luxury inevitably made the 2 women a little distressed. Yang Chen took 2 small jade boxes and pushed one to each woman. "This medicinal pill should be taken immediately, it is good." The 2 women opened the jade box and immediately saw the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill, wrapped by a talisman in the jade box. The 2 women knew that he was refining an Ask Inner Heart pill, but never knew how the pill looked like. He did not say what it was. Although the 2 women were somewhat suspicious, they did not link the medicinal pills to the Ask Inner Heart pill. Since Yang Chen said that it would benefit them, the 2 women naturally would not doubt it. Yang Chen would not harm them anyway. The 2 women even drank the 4C's mysterious coral liquid, thus, naturally they were not afraid to accept Yang Chen's small medicinal pill. No one was polite, they took it up, removed the talisman, then swallowed it. The effect of the pill quickly appeared and the 2 women immediately noticed the abnormality, then quickly entered the state of cultivation. Gong Sunling was okay, her core solidification was successful, and she was consolidating her cultivation base. The Ask Inner Heart pill let her enter the deepest level of meditation. Working in this way was only advantageous for her, with no harm. Bao Yu was a step away from her breakthrough. Because of the cultivation of the 10th water true essence, her cultivation base had been upgraded to the peak of the foundation stage, and the core solidification was also underway. This Ask Inner Heart pill let Gao Yu vaguely decipher the direction of the Jitan realm. The spiritual power of her whole body ran in an unprecedented concentration and the environmental spiritual power to resonate with her. The Ask Inner Heart pill was worthy of being named so, it was indeed possible to let people handle their own cultivation in the most rational way. Gao Yu knew that her consolidation time had not been long and her foundation stage was still not completely stable. Therefore, the idea of upgrading was heartened by this hardship. The spiritual power of this resonance was used to start a steady cultivation. Yang Chen's face also showed a smile. This kind of Ask Inner Heart pill could at least reduce the time for Gao Yu to consolidate her realm by half, which was enough. Both women were caught in cultivation and Yang Chen naturally wanted to protect them. There would be no danger here, but Yang Chen was also there just in case and once again took out the sword embryo of the first wood flying sword to further engrave his imprint in it. This kind of carving was not directly operated on the flying sword with the tools, but Yang Chen used the purest first wood spirit power, which condensed into a single secret technique. He kept it on the sword embryo so that it would follow its own need and transform its appearance. Yang Chen was very focused. He, who had a big rise in his cultivation base, had not been as strenuous as this time when making a secret technique before. Soon, the sword embryo of the first wood under his control began to appear on the sword tip, edge, ridge, hilt, blade. Soon a well-behaved flying sword began to slowly form. After the formation of the complete flying sword, Yang Chen began to lay down his spiritual awareness imprints. Then began to use the Heavenly Refining Treasures secret art and the Earth Fiend Sacrificial Formation secret art. When he started the sacrificial refining, on each sacrificial refining first layer, he used the Universe Treasure Raising secret art to maintain it. At this point, the Penglide Divine Wood Sword finally had the appearance of a flying sword and became an initial grade flying sword. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 275. Future Plans. Yang Chen did not directly upgrade the first wood flying sword all the way to the highest level, even though he could do so, but simply refined it to the Heavenly Spirit second layer and Earthly Fiend second layer, and then temporarily stopped. Penglide Divine Wood Flying Sword, he had not added enough auxiliary materials, just the Penglide Divine Wood, which was not a little worse. This was also one of the yin-yang 5 elements flying swords that Yang Chen needed for sacrificial refining for a lifetime. Yang Chen must be cautious and careful. The two women had taken the opportunity to consume the Ask Inner Heart pill and began to cultivate for a long time. Yang Chen sat down and began to consider what to do next. Greatest Heaven sect and Yang Lan were sure to be removed. However, Yang Lan's dark aptitude was not very good. Until now, they had not yet appeared in the Greatest Heaven sect. After Yang Chen went out, he planned to send people to explore the current movement of Yang Lan and see what opportunities could be had. Dealing with the Greatest Heaven sect was not so easy for the time being. After all, it was still a big sect at the highest point of its power. Not to mention Yang Chen alone, even if he pulled the entire Pure Yang Palace, he would not be their opponent. The news of the rebellion in the Heavenly Court had not yet reached the mortal realm, but there would surely be people to pass down the news and let the mortal world's Greatest Heaven sect deal with it early and control the resources of the mortal realm. At that time, the Greatest Heaven sect would have the support from above, they would definitely be even more domineering. Thinking of this, Yang Chen suddenly felt that he had seized something and was excited. It was not so easy to pass down the news from the immortal world to the spiritual world and then to the mortal world. They would at least have to pay several Great Principle Golden Immortals to discard several thousand years of cultivation bases as the price. At most, it would just be a conscious clone. However, even if it was a conscious clone, it would at least be a Great Principle Golden Immortal's consciousness clone. In this case, an extremely complicated formation was needed to help its descent. The upper realm and the mortal realm must accurately agree on the time and spend a lot of precious materials and effort to complete it. Of course, this descent of the Avatar was definitely a great help to a big sect like the Greatest Heaven sect. However, this kind of cost was too high, if not as a last resort, it would never be used. The Heavenly Court Rebellion, the newly appointed Jade Emperor taking office, this was definitely a news worthy of notice and also an opportunity to control the mortal realm's resources. A strong master consciousness clone's descent to the lower realm was also inevitable. The immortal world's profound heaven sect had already dominated the heavenly court and the price could be afforded by them. The immortal world passed the news to the spiritual world and the spiritual world passed on to the mortal world. It was handed down from generation to generation. With the experience in Yang Chen's memory, it seemed that it would take hundreds of years to complete. From Yang Chen's entry into the Immortal Executioner Stage till the present, almost 90 years had passed, and in memory, it seemed that after a few years, another very abnormal change of the heavens and the earth would occur. Now that he thought about it, it should be the descent of the consciousness clone from the upper realm. The reason why Yang Chen dared to be so sure was that after he ascended, he also heard from others that profound heaven sect had sent people to the lower realm. Second, after that incident, the performance of the profound heaven sect in the mortal world changed. Not only was it more aggressive than it was now, but it had also coerced many small sects to join them to further strengthen their force. Later, the Pure Yang Palace was also forced to lead its sect master to death and thus, Pure Yang Palace vanished. This was the hatred that Yang Chen never forgot. Now, when he still thought about it, he would still gnash his teeth. Consciousness clones descent into the lower realm, Yang Chen's mind had finally formed a complete idea. If he destroyed it this time, it would be very fun. This kind of formation that meets the consciousness clone from the upper realm must be in a hidden place in the Greatest Heaven sect. If this formation was in trouble, the consciousness clone of the upper level master would be broken and dispersed, which would be no less than a disaster comparable to a heavenly tribulation. Greatest Heaven sect's undercover Liang Shaming, who was placed in the Pure Yang Palace, had been dug up by Yang Chen. However, he had used dozens of 10th water yin thunder to directly blow up an avatar of the old tree demon and fried the entire Pure Yang Palace's mountain gate. This hatred, which was almost equivalent to destroying his family, allowed Yang Chen to scheme a retaliatory attack. Taking the opportunity to detonate the consciousness clone of the Upper Realm Master, the gate of the Greatest Heaven sect would only be worse than the Pure Yang Palaces. When Yang Chen thought of this result, he couldn't help but start to itch. He hated that he could not go out and arrange it now and then wait for the master of Greatest Heaven sect from the upper realm to throw himself into the net. He counted it on his fingers and there were still more than 10 years, enough for Yang Chen to finish all the things here. After destroying the development plan of the Greatest Heaven sect, there would be absolutely no conflict with Yang Chen's revenge plan. Accelerating this matter could also report the ruin of the entrance of the Pure Yang Palace. Yang Chen certainly had to seize this opportunity. But this temporary goal, Yang Chen's time had also been the backbone of his cultivation base. His current cultivation base did not need any help from the Ask Inner Heart pill. Now he only was guarding his master. Seeing that his master was now aware of her strangeness in the water attribute cultivation, perhaps, when a suitable time was right, Yang Chen could also tell the palace master of the postnatal spirit root to teach them in advance. With this postnatal spirit root, Pure Yang Palace could definitely find more outstanding disciples. The cultivation world came to know about the postnatal spirit root after almost 1,000 years in his previous life. Only then, Gao Yu discovered that she had the complete postnatal water spirit root, which also caused certain people in the Greatest Heaven sect to covet it. Yang Chen remembered that it was also announced to the world by the people in the Greatest Heaven sect. This kind of major discovery, of course, Yang Chen would not leave it to the Greatest Heaven sect to know about its reputation again. Before 100 years of time to that event, Yang Chen intended to announce it. Hundreds of years of advancement till then were enough to develop Pure Yang Palace substantially. In his mind, he thought about it like this: since the Greatest Heaven sect would coerce some small sects and rogue cultivators to join their force, the Pure Yang Palace would be able to do the same. As long as there was no need for harsher means and combined threats with inducements, a lot of rogue cultivators would come to seek shelter. Yang Chen was getting increasingly excited, but suddenly he had become a Jitan Realm Master. Now he was planning to pass these things to Pure Yang Palace. In his mind, after Gao Yu, the position of the palace master would be taken by him and he then would plan for the Pure Yang Palace and his master. He would never be parsimonious. What he had to do for the time being was to wait for the seclusion of his master and senior sister to end, then he intended to travel outside as a pretense and slowly stealthily work the Greatest Heaven sect. No one will ever know how the gates of the Greatest Heaven sect got destroyed and turned into a flat land. He amusingly wondered about the people of his sect laughing out about the Greatest Heaven sect's predicament. Bao Yu and Gong Sunling's small retreat lasted for 5 years. After the Dacheng Realm Masters Hua Wanting and Min Huifeng took the One Revolution Ask Inner Heart pill in the past, they had to spend half a year to digest the pill. The two women were just at the early stage of the Jitan realm and they took the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill, naturally it would take longer. During this time, Yang Chen did a lot of things. Yang Chen gave C's mysterious coral liquid to Xiao Yan no less than 10 times and exhausted its body impurities as much as possible so that the bloodline of him would be pure. As for Yang Chen himself, of course, he took no less. He had been promoted to the Jitan realm, thus, not only some of the original rate of absorption of the body was stimulated, but it also had brought on more impurities. When Yang Chen practiced the yellow turban strongman body refining technique, he suddenly noticed this. Compared with his earlier cultivation, after the promotion, there was some spirit power which was blocking his posture. This was obviously not because the body refining technique entered the second layer. Fortunately, there was the 4C's mysterious coral liquid which could let Yang Chen excrete impurities from his body at any time. Otherwise, so many impure things deposited in Yang Chen's body would spell big troubles sooner or later. After enjoying the process of detoxification through the 4C's mysterious coral liquid, Yang Chen's Golf Strongman body refining technique once again restored the posture of pursuing a pure Kai. He was also affirmed that for the time being, there would be no such big problems coming his way. With nothing to do, Yang Chen tested his current strength. The method used was still the stupid way. After roughly estimating the weight of a large pile of stone, it was then made into a huge stone pillar and waved. According to Yang Chen's calculations, his current strength was about 500,000 to 600,000 jin. It was close to 20,000 baht, which was more than the effect of practicing the body refining technique's first layer. It had more than doubled. It could be seen that Yang Chen's body was already outstanding. The yin-yang heaven burning fire was formed and had entered the initial stage. Yang Chen did not waste time. He directly sent the bright ray sword to the purple fire dragon inside his sea of consciousness, in accordance with the life source magic weapon sacrificial refining method, and warmed up to the nourishing sacrificial refining. This would also take decades of hard work for hundreds of years. Nevertheless, Yang Chen had a blood phantom vine flying sword. For the time being, he could also send a handful of thousands of ordinary flying swords out. As long as there was Xiao Yan, it was enough to use any peerless weapon. The first wood flying sword had just been formed and it needed more sacrificial refining and nourishment. At the same time, it needed more materials from the first wood to strengthen it. Yang Chen's discovery showed that although it was a real weapon, some high-end refining materials were very lacking. It seemed necessary to strengthen this collection in the future. Yang Chen had been able to safely cultivate the three purities secret art. After the Yuning realm, he had to enter the Daching stage, it wasn't small matter. The spiritual awareness of the Daching and Yuning realm had a world of difference, not to mention the third grade fire seed, even the true sun fire and moon true fire, the fifth grade fire seed, were not necessarily able to promote the spiritual awareness from the early Daching stage to the peak Daching stage. This was the gap. He had been promoted to the Jitan realm. For the time being, there was no need to worry about the splitting of the spiritual awareness. Three purities secret art was such a formidable cultivation method that it had to be practiced diligently. Even Yang Chen had a bit of recollection and the wonderful taste of his master and senior sister's spiritual awareness while undergoing double cultivation. Only in the future would there be opportunities where his master and senior sister would be willing to do it again with him, was still a problem. For Yang Chen, there was still an important thing to do after going out. The yin-yang heaven burning fire must be upgraded. There would be no more third grade and fourth grade fire seeds. The third grade fire seeds could be exchanged with a large amount of spirit stones. The fourth grade fire seed required some opportunities. Yang Chen could only go to find it himself or use medicinal pills to exchange it with others. Everything was for his cultivation base, and if the cultivation base didn't promote, anything would become empty talk. Before Yang Chen met Luo Yuan, he could only flee and escape. This fully illustrated this point. Fortunately, now Yang Chen had been promoted to the Jitan realm, even if he was not defeated while driving the shuttle, only a few people would be able to catch up. Thus, promotion increased his chances of survival in tough situations. The golden bell was naturally very powerful. At least, Yang Chen was not afraid of the bell's sound anymore, and enemies' more powerful attacks could now be countered. Unless one could kill Yang Chen with a single blow, it would definitely be countered by the bell. The only pity was that even if Yang Chen was in the Jitan realm, he still couldn't apply sacrificial refining to the golden bell. He really wanted to know how powerful the golden bell's resonance would be afterwards. Of course, Yang Chen had not solidified cores for the 9 other kinds of spiritual powers yet. He had to secure any opportunities to cultivate all his spiritual powers to the Jitan realm, this needed him to always keep an eye out. Already in the Jitan realm, Yang Chen still wondered if he could go to the Dragon Palace treasure house and see if he could open 1 or 2 more restrictions. The ones that had been obtained, each of them made him pleasantly surprised, and he believed that the remaining ones would bring even more surprises. Time passed slowly in the process of Yang Chen's planning for himself and the Puryang Palace. Of course, while protecting, he did not forget to consolidate his cultivation base. The yin and yang 5-element secret art was still being practiced to 1 heavenly circulation every day. Similarly, 3 purities secret art was also practiced daily. Universe treasure raising secret art was also practiced occasionally, while the yellow turban strongman body refining technique was the focus of his cultivation. Not to mention, the size and shape of his body reminded him to cultivate religiously, otherwise, going out with it would definitely make him joke to the world. Yang Chen was certainly not afraid of anyone laughing at him, but Yang Chen was afraid that because of him, his master would be pointed out by others. So, what Yang Chen could do was to suffer, work hard, and strive to cultivate the yellow turban strongman body refining technique to the 3rd layer as quickly as possible. At that time, his body shape would begin to slowly come back to normality. Gong Sunling's current cultivation base was calculated to be higher than Gao Yu's water attribute spiritual power, so she was faster than Gao Yu at comprehension. After opening her eyes, she realized what she had done. The first reaction was to ask Yang Chen directly, what was that medicine? 2 revolutions, ask Inner Heart Pill. Yang Chen casually replied, his eyes were carefully looking at his senior sister. 2 revolutions, ask Inner Heart Pill. Gong Sunling had heard of the name of the Ask Inner Heart Pill. Once she heard that what Yang Chen actually gave her and Gao Yu to eat was the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart Pill, she could not help but scream. The pill that allowed the Daching realm masters to break through their realm, she had actually eaten one after she had just solidified her core. Feeling that to waste such natural resources recklessly, Gong Sunling had a feeling of wanting to beat her chest and stamp her feet. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 276. Going Out. Both the Ask Inner Heart pill and Heaven Seizing pill were said to be the medicinal pills that enable the masters of the Daching stage to break through the realm. However, strictly speaking, the Heaven Seizing pill was still stronger. The Heaven Seizing pill could make the masters of the peak Daching stage ascend. It was directly relied on the pill spirit and formidable drug efficacy to help crossing the tribulation and ascending. Ask Inner Heart pill helped in stimulating the real potential of the cultivators, allowing them to improve their mind's cultivation base. So, Ask Inner Heart pill did not directly help the cultivator to improve their cultivation base, the cultivator still had to rely on his talent. However, the advantage of the Ask Inner Heart pill was that it could be adapted to almost everyone. One didn't have to worry about a life-threatening situation after the promotion of his cultivation. The 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill was more refined, the effect was completely different. In terms of value, it was infinitely close to the Heaven Seizing pill. Bong Sunling realized that she had taken the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill in a situation where even she, herself was unsure, she felt like getting stabbed through her heart. If she had known of this, she would not have taken it even if she was dying. A little medicinal pill, why should senior sister worry about it? Yang Chen looked at Gong Sunling's expression and held back his smile. Do not worry about it. That is the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill. Ah. 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill. Ah. Gong Sunling still did not hold back, rebuking Yang Chen. No matter whether it was 2 revolutions or 3 revolutions, wasn't it refined by me? Yang Chen smiled and said, it is not something that I can't refine again in the future. I don't have to worry about it, my sister. Gong Sunling suddenly thought this time. This medicinal pill was made by Yang Chen. However, this was the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill, which could almost move a master of the Daching stage, why would Yang Chen give it to herself? In her mind, she suddenly remembered a scene of herself and Yang Chen's spiritual awareness double cultivation. To be able to cooperate with Yang Chen, her legs were placed on his waist, and the scene of being in Yang Chen's arms with her hands on his neck appeared again. Gong Sunling's face became red, but she couldn't say anything anymore. It seemed that after having spiritual awareness double cultivation, Gong Sunling herself felt that he did not need to be so careful. Since it was Yang Chen's own creation, no matter how precious, he had complete authority over its use. Thinking of this, Gong Sunling's anger seemed to have been thrown into the clouds, and her emotions calmed down. Just a bit of resentment remained, you should have at least told us of its origin. I certainly will remember it for next time. Yang Chen smiled and promised. He then began to ask about the results of Gong Sunling's progress in her cultivation and the feeling she felt after taking the medicinal pill. Gong Sunling and Yang Chen spoke alone and discussed their respective results one after another. That was also that Yang Chen could use them as a reference. Bao Yu had not yet gone out, Yang Chen and Gong Sunling had also not left, they cultivated in the same place. The 2 continued to wait for almost half a year, only then did Gao Yu finally reacted. It wasn't that Gao Yu woke up from the seclusion, but on her body, suddenly an imposing aura burst out which made the surrounding spiritual power begin to madly concentrate on her. This situation had been experienced by Yang Chen once before. Naturally, this was the process of Gao Yu entering the solidifying core stage. Speaking of it in another way, this was Gao Yu's victory over Yang Chen's other spiritual powers as she got her second spiritual power to enter the stage of solidifying core. Yang Chen had been consolidating his cultivation base since his fire attribute spiritual power got promoted and did not think that he could promote other the spiritual powers in a short time. This was not that Yang Chen was not diligent enough, but if the yin and yang 5-element secret art wanted to reach the solidifying core, 10 Jidan, would never be so simple, no chance, it was impossible. Unless there was anything similar like the 5th Earth True Secret Art and 10th Water True Secret Art, the success chance of the cultivation may be enough to achieve a complete promotion. As for whether to bring all the other spiritual powers to the solidifying core stage, he was still unsure. If he wanted to rely on hard work as the way to reaching solidifying core stage for all the 10 spirit powers, even with Yang Chen's postnatal spirit root's full potential, he still had to wait for at least a few decades. The process of Gao Yu's core solidification lasted for more than a year. After achieving it, Gao Yu swallowed the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill and again started cultivation for 6 more years. The consolidation of the cultivation base, combined with her core solidification, was then finally completed. Bao Yu had now successfully achieved Jidan realm with her water attribute spiritual power. From the Kai refining to the foundation realm and then to the Jidan realm, it took her less than 70 years. Although she had taken the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill, the speed of promotion could still be regarded as astounding. After Gao Yu completed her core solidification, she asked the same question as Gong Sunling. The question about the origins of the medicinal pill she consumed. When she heard that it was the two revolutions ask in her heart pill, she didn't have the surprised reaction of Gong Sunling. It seemed that the master accepted the filial piety of her disciples, which was a matter of righteousness. The retreat of the three had now reached its goal. It had been 30 years since the start till the present. This could be regarded as a long-term retreat. Even if Yang Chen did not mention it, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling would still insist on going out. Since they had already achieved core solidification, there was not much significance in staying here for secluded cultivation. It was more appropriate to go out to gain experience. Although they could also fight with the monsters here, Yang Chen said that this kind of battle cultivates the consciousness and battle instinct. The real enemy though, were the other cultivators. Yang Chen, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, collectively going out, surprised the master of the palace and several elders. Yang Chen had said that, if he did not reach core solidification, he would not go out. Now the three people have gone out to gain experience, they had all reached the Jitan realm in just 30 years. The sect now had 3 more Jitan masters. This was a happy occasion. Asked about the 3-person process, naturally knowing their respective time of condensation, everyone was surprised. Looking at the talent of these 3, one would be affirmed that they were one of the most talented geniuses around. No one was worse than the Green Jade Immortal Island's Fairy Shy. Pure Yang Palace suddenly had 3 cultivation geniuses. The master of the palace was so happy that he laughed loudly. Not only the palace master, but even a few elders also had that pleased look. The happiest ones were Wang Yong, master of Yang Chen's master, Gao Yu, and Gao Xian, Gong Sunling's master's master. Their descendants' excellence also elevated their positions among other several elders. Especially Wang Yong, the eagerness of his disciple and the grand disciple to compete was a matter of great pride. However, all the happiness and pride was replaced with utter shock when Yang Chen took out 20 medicinal pills wrapped in a talisman. "What kind of medicinal pills are these?" asked a master of the palace with curiosity. Generally medicinal pills came packed in jade bottles, rarely were they ever wrapped in a talisman. "Two revolutions ask in her heart pill." Yang Chen answered very casually. "Two revolutions ask in her heart pill." When they heard Yang Chen's words, all the elders present jumped. Was he kidding? Ask in her heart pill of 2 revolutions. Gao Yu and Gong Sunling just heard about the name of the ask in her heart pill, but they didn't really see the ask in her heart pill before they took it, and they heard only some of the scraps that were occasionally heard. Even so, they heard it was also shocking. However, the reaction of the 2 women was not half as exaggerated as of any elder who was currently present. Hearing the name, 2 revolutions ask in her heart pill, no one could sit still. The ask in her heart pill could make a great Daching realm master break through the mid-stage bottleneck, and now there was this 2 revolutions version. Now everyone understood why Yang Chen would use the talisman to firmly wrap these medicinal pills. This level of medicinal pill, if not so preserved, was simply a crime. Yang Chen had seen that in the secret plane, all the medicinal pills had turned into dust with the passage of time. It was natural to be cautious and careful to preserve the 2 revolutions ask in her heart pill this way. The elders all came around in an instant, staring at the 20 small jade boxes that Yang Chen placed on the table and kept their eyes on it. Yang Chen said that in the past, he would open another furnace in 30 years. It took some time for the retreat, but when everyone saw the 2 revolutions ask in her heart pill, the difference between it and the 1 revolution ask in her heart pill was that of heaven and earth. If you say that the 1 revolution ask in her heart pill would be able to let the masters of the middle stage break through the bottleneck, then the 2 revolutions version may as well could let the master of the peak stage to increase the assurances in crossing the tribulation phase to ascension. Even the Daching stage masters could use it, they were the masters of the Yuning stage, naturally they could also. In the same year, for the 100,000 mountains, a total of 13 ask in her heart pills had been dispersed to 9 Daching stage masters, the remaining 2 were given to Wang Yong, 1 given to the palace master. Even though both have not been willing to take it. Now there were a total of 20 ask in her heart pill, even if 1 was given to every person in the room, there were still a lot left. Everybody thought of getting 1, the Daching stage was expected, and everyone's hearts would be restless. Yang Chen was now taking out the other things, which were intended to be handed over to the sect's benefit. The palace master and the elders decided that the sect resources would be used by Yang Chen. Yang Chen had no need to ask the sect anymore for whatever he needed to use at any time. As for how to use these 2 revolutions ask in her heart pill, Yang Chen was no longer concerned. He only had to worry about his master and the elders. So, it just happens to be able to strengthen the prestige of my pure Yang Palace. The palace master finally suppressed his excitement and said. Yang Chen, Gao Yu and Gong Sunling had some doubts, they didn't know what the palace master meant. Wang Yong was very interested in introducing them to the changes in the pure Yang Palace during their retreat. The most obvious change was that the disciples recruited by the Pure Yang Palace had increased several times more than before. Every year, hundreds of people joined the Pure Yang Palace. Pure Yang Palace seemed to have gained the same appeal as the big sects. Naturally, because of the operation of the 100,000 mountains, the Pure Yang Palace was also on the rise. The monthly cases of disciples have multiplied, and the cultivation of all the disciples was gradually improving. The overall strength of the Pure Yang Palace had also improved a great in the past few decades. If the former Pure Yang Palace was only at the bottom of the second-rate sects, it was now at least at the middle second-rate sects. The growth of the martial arts sect had also led to other changes. In recent years, Pure Yang Palace has also held auctions within the sect. Of course, because of the income from 100,000 mountains in the form of precious materials. The sect had been using the surplus for the auctions. Just recently an external auction was going to be organized by the sect and there were no finale items available. Yang Chen's 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart Pill, naturally, would be the best one to use for it. Just kidding. How can I ask whether 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart Pill was available for auction? After the Palace Master had been waiting for Wang Yang to introduce it, this was just a taste. What does the Palace Master mean? Wang Yang did not understand what the Palace Master wanted to do and could not help but ask. Yang Chen respected you and I have a Ask Inner Heart Pill. I know that you old guys are not willing to use it. I have not been willing either, but this time it could be used for the external auction's finale item. The Palace Master said in a rare joking tone to Wang Yang. The group looked at that batch of 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart Pills on the table. Then the Palace Master suddenly said to Yang Chen. Since you take out these things, we also rely on the seniority to sell the older one, do you have any objections? The Palace Master can handle it any way he desires. Yang Chen smiled and replied he didn't want to manage it when he took it out. How to deal with it was to be decided by the elders. Everyone could take 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart Pill, excited looks appeared on their faces. The Palace Master did not care and directly threw one for each person and at the same time collected one for himself. Then said, the rest of these will be sent to the sect's secret pavilion for safekeeping. It will thus serve as a reward for people who will make great contributions in the future. Naturally, no one had any opinions on such a decision. The one who asked the Palace Master and Wang Yang's turn in the 1 revolution Ask Inner Heart Pill quickly took it to prepare for the auction. Yang Chen had retired for more than 30 years. Naturally, he also needed to re-recognize the sect style. At the same time, he also had to visit old friends and thus asked to be excused. However, though the 3 were familiar in the Pure Yang Palace, the finale item of this auction, the 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart Pill of the Pure Yang Palace, was the news, which had already passed along with the exchange of wine Immortal House and other rogue cultivators all over the cultivation world. In order to allow most people to hear the news, the Pure Yang Palace even postponed the time of this auction, which was now scheduled to be half a year later. Since 100,000 mountains matter, almost 50 years had passed, thus, there was no need for secrecy anymore. Moreover, the masters of the Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud sect also consciously or unconsciously told some old friends about the matter of the Ask Inner Heart Pill. Thus, the Ask Inner Heart Pill was already known to be a precious thing in the cultivation world, but it couldn't be had. There were going to be Ask Inner Heart Pills in the auction, and the time had aroused the interest of countless people. Whether it was a big or a small sect, martial sect or rogue cultivators, whether it was a master of the Dacheng realm or a patriarch of the Yuning realm, or a master of the Jitan realm, as long as they felt that they could afford. They began to wonder about seizing some at the auction. Some alchemist masters and some big sects began to think about whether they could take Ask Inner Heart Pill to carefully study the ingredients and alchemical techniques used so that they could also imitate it. The auction of the Pure Yang Palace had not been started yet and its hype had already spread far and wide. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 277. Highly confident. Even if there were a few cultivators who didn't know what the Ask Inner Heart Pill was, they were sure of its value due to the publicity. They would eventually understand what the Ask Inner Heart Pill was. From the Foundation realm to all the way to the masters of the Dacheng realm could use such a precious thing. A medicinal pill once led a master of the middle Dacheng stage to directly break through the bottleneck, such a possibility could make countless people go crazy. In this world, there were many cultivators who were trapped in a bottleneck and could not break through. When they heard that there were good things like Ask Inner Heart Pills, they immediately realized how important these were to their cultivation. Some masters of the big sects, who had few friends and relatives, may have a few poorly qualified juniors trapped in a certain realm. If they could get a Ask Inner Heart Pill, couldn't they break through their bottleneck and improve their cultivation base? Countless people had begun to plan, and at what cost could they get a Ask Inner Heart Pill? However, everyone understood that for a moment it would interest the masters of the Dacheng realm. At that time, even if they had more spirit stones, the pressure of these masters would reign supreme. If they wanted to grab these ask inner heart pills from these masters, they would need to think of other methods. These had nothing to do with Yang Chen. The Pure Yang Palace auctioning the ask inner heart pill at the first-hand delivery of the transaction did not care who buys it. The only thing that should be of concern to the Pure Yang Palace was that the influence of its own sect was getting bigger and bigger. There was another advantage to the spreading of this news. Everyone had stopped suspecting that Yang Chen was coveting the Shang family heaven-seizing pill formula. Since Yang Chen could refine the ask inner heart pill, meant that the other's level had already exceeded the Shang family by many times, why would he care about the heaven-seizing pill? Although the heaven-seizing pill was precious, but for 2,000 years, there had only been two. Although it seemed that with it, people crossed tribulations and ascended, but in the eyes of the masters, it was not as good as the ask inner heart pill. Everyone understood that the cultivation base that they have acquired by themselves was the most stable and most fundamental strength. By relying on external forces, it would be slightly inferior. The heaven-seizing pill was the external force, while the ask inner heart pill improved one's own strength. Which one would benefit the best, everyone knew clearly. Yang Chen's reputation had also become more resounding with the news of the ask inner heart pill. And this also made more people clench their teeth more and more. The news of the auction was frantically blistering, but Yang Chen was taken to the Immortal's cave by the palace master and several elders. Yang Chen, during these days of your seclusion, I have made some changes in the Pure Yang Palace. You should know fairly well on the line. The palace master told Yang Chen these bewildered words, so that Yang Chen was very puzzled. What changes? The master of the palace did not say that the other people did not intervene, but everyone's face was filled with a burst of joy. It seemed that this was a good thing, not some trouble. After waiting for a while in the hall, Yang Chen's three friends, Hallmaster Gi Shanyu, Shikui and Xie, who had not seen him since his seclusion, quickly came out from a portal. Behind them, 8 strangers followed, men and women. The 8 people were all at the Yuaning realm. Their progress fluctuated between the late and early Yuaning stage. Yang Chen almost immediately noticed the demon Kai of the 8 strangers and suddenly understood. These 8 guys should be the Yuaning stage monsters that were originally trapped in the Immortal's cave. It was estimated that they were convinced by the old tree demon and promised a large profit to draw them to the Hall of Eccentrics. If he didn't look at anything else, just seeing that they could be transformed into human figures meant that the old tree demon had already passed on the transformation secret art to them. To assure the sect of their disposition, it must be that these guys have already vowed an oath of loyalty on their monster souls. There were more than 8 Yuaning realm masters at once, thus, the strength of the Yang Palace could almost be said to have been multiplied. It must be known that every elder had a praying mantis puppet of the peak Yuaning stage. These combat forces were comprehensive and definitely not lower than the upper levels of the original Pure Yang Palace. These masters were secret forces, and the Pure Yang Palace would hide them for the time being. It was the kingly way to accumulate strength in the dark. Li Shanyu introduced these different people to Yang Chen one by one. It seemed that everyone had heard of his name and was being very polite. After becoming familiar with each other, Gi Shanyu once again entered the portal with the Yuaning realm masters of the Hall of Eccentrics to impart some guidance on cultivation. There are still a few people who have achieved peak Yuaning stage cultivation base, but for the time being, I am afraid that it is not good to suppress them, so I have not wooed them. When the palace master saw the people of the Hall of Eccentrics leave, he explained to Yang Chen. Yang Chen did not know what was in the Yuaning realm portal, so the palace master made it clear to him. Then added another sentence. In the portal of the Daching realm, it is said that there is also a master of the realm in there. However, we cannot control it for now, so do not make other arrangements for the time being. Wait until the sect has enough strength, then we'll see if we can pull it up. This was a safe plan. It was not good to rush to draw a master of the Daching stage that no one could control. This was not to give the sect more strength, but to give trouble to the sect. It seemed that this could wait till at least 2 of the elders get to be promoted to the Daching realm. Then both could join the strength with the old tree demon, perhaps then they would be able to suppress it. Yang Chen couldn't help but look at the master ancestor Wang Yong. His cultivation base had already reached the peak of the Yuaning realm, and now he was accumulating. Maybe after a few more years, with the help of the ask inner heart pill, the master ancestor could step into the level of the Daching stage. Next, the palace master seemed to be going to explain the changes made in the Pure Yang Palace to Yang Chen one by one. He personally took Yang Chen and turned around towards the Pure Yang Palace to show him the surface of the Pure Yang Palace. After the change was shown, he brought Yang Chen back to the room where he taught others. Pure Yang Palace has developed rapidly in the past 40 years. The palace master was sitting on his own, and after Yang Chen sat down, he slowly said. Yes, palace master. Yang Chen also nodded. Compared to the original Puryang Palace, the current Puryang Palace could almost be described as earth-shaking. But, well, my Puryang Palace is so developed, Green Jade Immortal Island and Blue Cloud Sect have developed even more. The Palace Master quickly said his own concern. Now, for the time being, because of the combination of interests, the alliance, who knows what will happen in the future. The more these martial arts sects developed and grew, the more they would threaten the Puryang Palace, and they would have prepared beforehand. Actually, the Palace Master does not have to worry so much. Yang Chen understood the concerns of the Palace Master and immediately said with comfort Puryang Palace is not their biggest enemy. If the concept of the Taoist demon was not established, the Puryang Palace and several major sects could have belonged to the same Tao sect. Naturally, they were not the enemy. The enemy was the demon sect and spirit. If you follow the competition amid the Tao sects, the Puryang Palace could only be regarded as a small generation, even a second-rate sect in the many second-rate sects. At best, it was mainstream second-rate sect. Although it was better than the previous second-rate bottom, the absolute strength was really too insufficient to be regarded as a competitor to more affluent sects. This was what Yang Chen said in his words. However, it was clear that he did not expect the confidence of the Palace Master towards expansion. There will be a day to face them. The face of the Palace Master didn't show a sigh of relief, but became more solemn. My Puryang Palace is no longer the former. Some matters, I have to plan early. Yang Chen, I am optimistic about you. The last sentence contained the expectations and confidence of the higher circles of the Puryang Palace towards Yang Chen. No, they were not unconfident, that's why they didn't say anything else. It was enough to let the people be more hopeful. In the past, they were worried that even if Yang Chen cultivated to the peak of Yuning realm, he couldn't go any further. Now they were full of confidence about him reaching the Daching stage, it was no longer illusory at all. If the Puryang Palace could within 200 or 300 years procure 4 or 5 masters of the Daching realm, then it would not be regarded as an ordinary martial arts sect. But a first-class sect that could directly compete with the likes of Blue Cloud Sect and Green Jade Immortal Island. If you count the speed of supplements of recent generations of disciples, it was not impossible to grow into another first-class martial arts sect. All these changes were brought upon by Yang Chen, including the transformation of the mentality of the top management. The Puryang Palace had been promoted. With the resources of 100,000 mountains, the spiritual power and the escape route of the Blue Vault Mountain Immortal's Cave and Yang Chen's medicinal pills, it fully possessed all the conditions for its rise as a large martial arts sect. No matter how it changes, the Palace Master, as long as we are strong enough, we are not afraid of any change. Yang Chen also influenced the words of the Palace Master, now he was even more motivated. The Palace Master nodded his head slightly and no longer said anything more. Yang Chen understood what he meant, that this was enough. As for the others, he believed that this young disciple could definitely do better than many other people. Right, Palace Master, as the last thing from this disciple, please have a look. Yang Chen looked at the high-spirited master of the palace and was moved in his heart. He then said to him, I also asked the Palace Master to organize a secret ground. The Palace Master glimpsed, immediately he waved, several restrictions appeared around the room. He then again waved, he and Yang Chen appeared in another place. Yang Chen was very familiar with this feeling of instantaneous space conversion, clearly this was the general feeling of entering a medicine garden. And just as he thought so, it indeed was a medicine garden. The space was not too big. There were more than 100 acres of square fields and elixir, but they were not very mature yet. The best were only a few hundred years old. This is my own medicine refining garden. It is not as good as yours. The master of the palace knew that Yang Chen's medicine garden had many precious goods, but he did not feel that his medicine garden was poor, instead he proudly introduced it. In this regard, Yang Chen did not feel surprised. Although his own medicine garden was good, he was not refining it himself from the beginning. In terms of his sense of accomplishment, it was inferior to the palace master's garden. His pride was justified. Into the medicine garden, Yang Chen would no longer conceal anything, he directly put Wan Qian out. Suddenly, a charming woman appeared in front of himself, and even the palace master was shocked. The master who has been caught by this disciple and has no wisdom, but still retains the instinct of cultivation. Yang Chen did not tell the true identity of Wan Qian, but only recommended to the head of the palace, she also has a metal-attributed spirit root, her cultivation base is the same as the palace master's, she will serve outstandingly for double cultivation, with palace master. Finding a Tao companion for double cultivation with the palace master had always been what Yang Chen wanted to do. Now Wan Qian had a completely changed face. No one could recognize her anymore. Yang Chen boldly handed her over to the palace master. He didn't tell him the truth because he was afraid that the palace master would contact the Blue Cloud sect. If he accidentally leaked something that gave her away, it would only cause trouble. As for Wan Qian and her apprentices, the disappearance had become an eternal unsolved case. Apart from Yang Chen, no one would know where they had gone. After waiting for hundreds of years, perhaps Blue Cloud sect people would think that they had gone out to die and would not bother to find them. The palace master was somewhat stunned. A master of the middle Yuning stage, quite similar to him in cultivation. Yang Chen actually said that he captured her. It seemed that this happened before the retreat. How could he not be surprised? Why did Yang Chen not give him any intimation before his seclusion? The palace master instinctively thought that during the retreat, Yang Chen wasted a long time to wipe out the mind of Wan Qian, which was to exempt him from the troubles. Recording the double cultivation method on a jade slip, Yang Chen handed it over to the palace master. Palace master, this method is more suitable for the metal attributed spirit root than the ordinary cultivation methods. If the palace master's practice is effective, it would not be too difficult to reach the daching stage. Then, Yang Chen taught the master how to control Wan Qian. With this technique, she became a puppet to the palace master. Whether it was practice or battle, the strength of the master of the palace could almost be said to have once again raised a step. For the cultivation of his own palace master, Yang Chen would never regret over a little Wan Qian. In his previous life, he got killed while saving Yang Chen in the sect-destroying battle. Such kindness deserved a repayment by Yang Chen in this life. As for Yang Chen's own safety, Yang Chen would not worry anymore after he had the sea-pouring jasper cup and the golden bell. If the shuttle was added, he would be even safer. However, Yang Chen did not care, he left the palace master stunned. Who could think of it, no matter how brash, Yang Chen actually gave the sect one more Yuning realm master. Moreover, this Yuning master could actually improve with him during double cultivation. Yang Chen, a disciple, had increasingly made it impossible for the master of the palace to see through. Of course, the better Yang Chen performs, the happier he was to be the palace master. Laughing and accepting Yang Chen's filial piety, the palace master suddenly remembered one thing and asked, "Have you killed a few people who challenged you?" There were a few. Yang Chen nodded and admitted, in an entanglement, this disciple had already conceded defeat, but the other disciples challenged a life and death duel. This disciple was naturally not polite. Well, their sects want to say some things. The palace master snorted, "So that is the case, then give them a statement, if they dare to entangle you again, I will exterminate them." If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 278. Greatest Heaven Sects Plan. The meaning of the words of the palace master were meant to make these sects understand the difference. It was nothing more than telling these sects that people challenging him and getting killed in legitimate life and death challenges are worthy of being recognized, while the duels their disciples pursued can't be regarded as the same honorable acts. The present Pure Yang Palace's spirit was now a lot harder and the tone of speech firmer. Someone from a small sect couldn't dare to mince words like this. Pure Yang Palace or the Luo family with their late daching stage masters would not make mistakes in lieu of this. Speaking of it, Yang Chen's killing of each of them was to show that he was not afraid to confront anyone. When he was challenged, he did admit defeat. But they still forced to fight, meaning that they were knowingly rushing to find death and killing kills. "Yang Chen, what is with your body shape?" After finishing the business, the palace master finally investigated the change in Yang Chen's body. Such a strong body, it was rare even for a body cultivator, the palace master could not help but be curious. This disciple is practicing a body refining cultivation method. Yang Chen smiled and explained, "I haven't gotten proficient yet and will wait until after I practice to small accomplishment, it will return to normal." The palace master was only asking and did not intend to study it carefully. Listening to his explanation, he nodded and said nothing more. Among the entire Pure Yang Palace, only one person did not need anyone to worry about what he was cultivating. From his entry into the sect as an outer sect disciple, no one had ever pointed out Yang Chen's cultivation path for him. This was also an odd issue. "The pill has become a success, what are your plans for the next?" The palace master was completely concerned about him and did not have any other ideas. "Reading thousands of books and traveling thousands of miles." Yang Chen respectfully replied, "This disciple intends to travel around." "Well, okay." The palace master nodded. "The way of cultivation is not to cultivate behind closed doors. But..." Just when he said these two words, he suddenly saw Wan Qian next to him and could no longer continue talking. When he came out, he just reached out and patted Yang Chen's shoulder. "Forget it, Luo Yuan can't help you. Run, don't worry about the face." Originally, he wanted to remind Yang Chen to pay attention to safety. However, suddenly, he realized that Wan Qian, who was a master of the mid-Yuning stage, was actually captured by him, thus, couldn't say anything else. Yuning master cannot help him, Daching master could not catch up with him, if he still was worried about anything and his action fast enough, nothing was going to happen to him. Palace Master, if the timing is similar, then take the Ask Inner Heart pill. Yang Chen said to the Palace Master just before he left, this pill is not as precious as you think. After that, Yang Chen turned and left, leaving only the Palace Master to stand and carefully chew Yang Chen's words. The 2 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pill was not as precious as imagined. What does this mean? Leaving the Palace Master, Yang Chen went to meet his master ancestor Wang Yang. The current cultivation of the ancestor had been infinitely close to the apex of the Yuning realm, and only the last step needed to be taken. Yang Chen came to the ancestor to persuade him to take the Ask Inner Heart pill. This kind of pill could be refined anytime by him and was not as precious as others imagined. The ancestor and the Palace Master have always been reluctant to consume it. Convincing the Palace Master to convince Master Ancestor to use the method was more direct. Yang Chen was very casual. From the Qianqin bag, he took out more than 22 revolutions Ask Inner Heart pills wrapped in a talisman and placed them in front of his Master Ancestor. Master Ancestor, this pill, Master and Senior Sister both have consumed, you don't have to be so frugal. Yang Chen's smiling face, now in the eyes of Wang Yang, was so shocking, the ancestor entering the Daching realm is much more important than these medicinal pills. Although the Pure Yang Palace now had a master of the Daching realm, it was the Hall of Eccentrics, Hall Master, Di Shanyu, not the upper level of the original Pure Yang Palace. This always served as a point of contention. The Master Ancestor Wang Yang was closest to Daching realm. If Wang Yang could break through, it would be great for the Pure Yang Palace. A master of the Daching realm would surely increase the status of the sect. Moreover, afterwards, if the sect was willing, he could directly subdue a monster of the Daching realm from the Daching realm portal of the Blue Vault Mountains Immortal's Cave. In lieu towards making it join the Hall of Eccentrics directly. 3 masters of the Daching realm were enough to make the strength of the Pure Yang Palace soar again. At that time, it may be able to reach the apex of the second-rate sects. If still allowed to accumulate for a period, it would not be impossible to truly become a first-class sect. The stronger the sect's experts, the stronger the sect. The stronger the sect, the more resources that could be mastered, which in turn leads to the development of the sect more easily, which leads to more sect experts. This was a virtuous cycle of a well-developed martial arts sect, and the Pure Yang Palace was on this path. This reason, Yang Chen understood, the master of the palace and Wang Yang also understood, so the second day after Yang Chen visited the master ancestor, Wang Yang announced his seclusion to attack the Daching realm. Gao Yu was busy with another matter in the sect. As a master of refining, Gao Yu had both the roots of water and fire attributes. Some of the magic weapons that the sect needed were her responsibility. The refining device was naturally inside the sect. Yang Chen was very happy with this arrangement. At least for a short time, Gao Yu could rely on the refining device to consolidate her cultivation base without worrying about instability. As for going out to gain experience, it was completely possible to wait for his master's cultivation base to become stable. Senior sister, Gong Sunling, also had responsibilities. She was now following her own master to delve into a deeper study of formations. Such a genius disciple, Gong Sunling's master also had gained a lot of face. Of course, she must be carefully cultivated and not be wronged. When her master summoned, she naturally couldn't say anything and could only refine with her master. It was a pity that she couldn't go out and gain experience with Yang Chen. This arrangement Yang Chen also liked very much. Though he was going out this time, it was not a simple tour, but he wanted to take aim at the greatest heaven sect. Once something went wrong, it would spell big trouble. Yang Chen didn't want to involve his master and senior sister in this dangerous matter. When he calculated the time, the consciousness clones decent to the greatest heaven sect had a few years of time left. Presumably, the greatest heaven sect had already prepared everything. Yang Chen wanted to destroy it, but still needed to make more arrangements. It was not so simple. In addition to the arrangements made by the heavenly court, a person at the lower realm was also needed to receive the consciousness clone at the time of its descent. The recipient must accept the possession of the avatar to make the transfer successful. As calling it body possession bluntly seemed to convey a bad notion, it was called accepting the perfusion of consciousness. Still, this consciousness carrier was destined to be sacrificed like a consumable. The reason why one had to be sacrificed was that the avatar could not last for a long time on its own. This kind of passage between the two worlds required a huge price. From the bottom up, it was called ascension and needed tribulations to be passed to be successful. Conversely, the difficulty was greater by tens of thousands of times. Several Great Principle Golden Immortals had to abolish their cultivation of thousands of years as a sacrifice. It was not something that anyone could afford. Only Profound Heaven Sect, this immortal world's big sect, could do it. The whole process was also very dangerous. Once any error occurred, both sides could pay a devastating price. However, success could bring great many benefits. At the very least, news of the upper realm and the experiences regarding cultivation methods could be passed down. For the mortal world, this was simply a heaven-defying matter. Unfortunately, nothing was as perfect as everyone imagined. It was impossible to bring a large amount. On the one hand, there was not enough time, on the other, it needed strong determination, preparation and remembrance capacity for the information needed to be transmitted. Even so, when crossing the barriers of the two worlds, the avatar would still be greatly hurt. The memory of the avatar would get erased by up to 99%, only the deepest of memories could survive. Knowing all the information completely was still impossible. The rebellion of the Heavenly Court and the re-establishment of the Jade Emperor were the matters that could be remembered by anyone. Therefore, in the memory of Yang Chen's past life, the news of profound heaven sect success was the memory that survived. As for what else, Yang Chen was not very clear. It was not that easy to break the boundless consciousness of the greatest heaven sect. This matter was of great importance. Greatest heaven sect would definitely have a master as the guard, and the location would definitely be at the core of greatest heaven sect. Not to mention a living person, even a mouse was estimated to not be able to enter. Secondly, once the welcoming array got completed, he would not be able to destroy it. This kind of array had a self-preservation ability, and the protection potential was not inferior to the greatest heaven sect's mountain protecting Great Formation. It was a wishful thought to want to destroy it after completion. However, Yang Chen must sack this grand event of the greatest heaven sect. This was not only related to the strong development of greatest heaven sect in the future, but also Yang Chen's vengeance against Liang Shaming for destroying the Pure Yang Palace in his previous life. In the memory of Yang Chen, there were several kinds of welcoming formations. Yang Chen couldn't judge which kind the greatest heaven sect would use. If he wanted to know, there was only one way to see the appearance of the formation. Only by knowing which type of welcoming formation was involved that Yang Chen could determine how to destroy it. Greatest Heaven Sect was a big martial arts school. There even had a lot of rogue cultivator attachments around the Pure Yang Palace. Not to mention the Greatest Heaven Sect side, it was 10 times livelier than the Pure Yang Palace. The welcoming array would take a large area. If the array layout was placed in the inner sect, it would definitely not fit and could only be within a strictly guarded area somewhere nearby. Yang Chen had a face-changing pill. If Yang Chen took the face-changing pill, he changed his face and mixed into the side of the Greatest Heaven Sect with the rogue cultivators. He could secretly look at the welcoming array of the Greatest Heaven Sect. What was too difficult? But now, Yang Chen's body shape was so valiant that even people who have not seen it could recognize who he was at a glance. Don't even talk about changing his looks, he couldn't hide his features even after changing his appearance 10 times. It seemed not so easy to sneak in from the front, so he could only find a way from the other direction. That area must be heavily guarded also, and he may be able to see the appearance of the formation if he could bypass them. In fact, he only needed to see a glimpse of the formation, he did not require much. The once-in-a-lifetime consciousness clone descent was a matter of future development for the Greatest Heaven Sect. It was always the top priority for defense. At least 2 masters of the Daching realm would use their spiritual awareness to explore the entire area at any time, and the slightest movement will be enough to make them act. It was almost impossible for Yang Chen to not disturb anyone by his approach. However, there were exceptions to everything. Few magic weapons found in the treasure house of the Dragon Palace could be fully used here. The shuttle was almost omnipotent underground, but it couldn't hide the insights of spiritual awareness from the Daching realm masters. Yang Chen still got another treasure, the sea-pouring jasper cup. In addition to being able to absorb and condense the 10th water true essence, it also had a very important role in blocking spiritual awareness. When Luo Yuan chased Yang Chen, he escaped his pursuit many times by relying on the sea jasper. He eventually led him to the side of Lan Yan. After successfully concealing himself, he then had him killed. Luo Yuan and Lan Yan, both in Daching realm, one was at late and the other at peak stage, ready to ascend. It was impossible for them to find Yang Chen. Naturally, the master of Greatest Heaven Sect under the shield of the sea jasper would be the same. To conceal his whereabouts, Yang Chen entered the shuttle from the get-go. Similarly, he also used a sea jasper to cover his whole body to conceal it from other spiritual awareness. Furthermore, he even circled a few times erratically and finally went towards the Greatest Heaven Sect. This was also a safe thing to do. After all, the Greatest Heaven Sect was still a super sect. If this time he attracts the hostility of it, he was not worth a candle in front of them. We must know that destroying the avatar of the expert descending into the lower realm could definitely be compared with the destruction of a sect. Everyone had only one result, that was, death. But Yang Chen's cautious approach, 3 months later, his shuttle finally entered the Greatest Heaven Sect and no one noticed it. However, Yang Chen was a little bit worried. He couldn't find the location of the Greatest Heaven Sect's welcoming array layout. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 279. Destruction without lifting a finger. In the past life, Yang Chen only knew the day of the incident when there was a phenomenon in the heavens and the earth. He was unclear of where in the greatest heaven sect the array was being arranged. He couldn't say it, he could only find it in the entire greatest heaven sect. However, this was not a simple activity, at least Yang Chen had not yet touched the greatest heaven sect mountain protecting great formation. Once he touched the ground, it would definitely cause a response from the mountain protecting great formation. Letting them raise their vigilance, it would not be worth a loss. Carefully avoiding the great formation of the greatest heaven sect, Yang Chen walked around the outer perimeter of the inner sect but still did not find out exactly where the welcoming array was. If he wanted to enter the gates of the greatest heaven sect, he would trigger the formation in any case. Yang Chen was not proficient in all formations. At least he was not good with this kind. It was obviously impossible to enter silently. Even more impossible to break through the mountain protecting great formation. It would definitely trigger an alarm signifying an attack on the formation. Simply announcing his presence and location to the greatest heaven sect. It was not easy to hide for such a long time, he did not want to fall short at the end. Yang Chen must let the greatest heaven sect eat a squandering loss. Even while suffering they must not know of the villain or find any clues. This required him to be more careful than ever, without revealing any flaws. After he carefully wrapped around the boundary, Yang Chen had found almost no clue. If he went in through the ground, it would trigger a large defense array of the mountain protecting great formation, which was very distressing for him. Suddenly, Yang Chen's mind flashed, and then his face showed a smile. He was so obsessed with the flaws that he had gotten into the corners of the horns. From the beginning, Yang Chen thought that he would not allow anyone to see him entering the greatest heaven sect. He had been so focused on thinking from this point of view that he had forgotten the monster race beast controlling secret art that he had practiced. The monster race beast controlling secret art could let Yang Chen communicate with the monsters with spiritual wisdom, but it was limited to that due to his past low cultivation base. Now he had already reached solidifying core stage. According to the description of the beast controlling secret art, he could completely control the actions of a common animal, while also being able to share vision with it. The mountain protecting great formation would respond to all spiritual creatures unless they were recognized by a sacred token. The sect token must be squandered with blood, and others could not simply pretend having it. However, this did not include ordinary animals with no spiritual power, who would not be affected by the mountain protecting great formation. This was the design consideration of the mountain protecting great formation. If there were animals without any spiritual power, naturally they would not have the ability to destroy the formation itself. Therefore, from the beginning of the design phase, the defense arrays within had never been aimed at ordinary animals. Suitable animals were very easy to find, and Yang Chen grabbed few flying sparrows with ease. To deal with this kind of sparrow without any spiritual awareness, he used the beast controlling secret art once and successfully controlled one. Subsequently, Yang Chen controlled the sparrows to flying into the sky and sway into the greatest heaven sect mountain protecting great formation. The three purities secret art cultivation's formidable spiritual awareness only left a trace of the sparrows in the distance. The great formation didn't show any reaction to it. Yang Chen looked in the core area of the inner sect. The buildings there were densely packed, and the places where the underground spiritual pulse were concentrated were all good places to cultivate. Even if it was the greatest heaven sect, they didn't have the richness and wealth to separate a piece of the underground spiritual pulse to specifically arrange the welcoming array. Yang Chen paid attention to areas that the welcoming array could be placed under. Controlling the sparrows, he scanned several spacious places in the greatest heaven sect. What made Yang Chen strange was that even with so many such areas, he could not find any trace of the welcome array's arrangement. This made him distressed. Was the welcoming array of the greatest heaven sect already completed? Available to be used at a moment's notice, whenever they wanted. The unwilling Yang Chen once again controlled the sparrows to fly. It took a full 2 months to carefully examine each place. The welcoming array required a huge flat land. In the greatest heaven sect, there was almost no place to meet such requirements. The only place with some resemblance was in a valley, but the area was a little less. It would have been impossible to completely carry out the welcoming array there. Could it be that the greatest heaven sect's welcoming formation arrangement was placed underground? This was quite possible, but soon Yang Chen vetoed the idea. As the welcoming array started, apart from the consciousness carrier, everything above would be wiped out. It was not the first time for the greatest heaven sect to do such a thing. How could they choose to summon the consciousness clone to the lower realm underground? There must be something left. I must have had missed something. Yang Chen once again controlled the sparrow, starting exploration from the intersection of the greatest heaven sect and entering the mountain gate. The large road walked in, facing the huge mountain gate archway, and then went to the square where the disciples were tested. It was also the gate of the sect mountain that received guests from all walks of life. Yang Chen was thrown here in the past life. Then there were the hills where the outer sect disciples were located. Several roads were connected, surrounded by mountains. Going in was the inner sect area of the greatest heaven sect. Suddenly, Yang Chen's heart moved and he went to the square where the disciples were tested. Wouldn't it be enough to get rid of the houses that hosted the guests? The array was arranged there. Usually a strong spiritual power fluctuation was always found here, only to be misunderstood for it being from the mountain protecting great formation. The disciples would never doubt about the trick under their own eyes. If the sect closed the area in advance and removed these houses, this place could assume its real purpose as a huge welcoming array, usable at any time. Not far from the guest room, a master of the Dacheng realm sat all year round, supposedly to protect the safety of the guests and to prevent people from messing up. Within the few major sects, only the greatest heaven sect had such a large arrangement. It seemed to serve as a respectful gesture for the guests, but a master of the Dacheng realm sitting here all the year round was overkill and too suspicious. Isn't he guarding the welcoming array? The layout of the greatest heaven sect was truly unique. After discovering this, Yang Chen finally showed a smile. If he knew where the formation was, the rest of the matter was much simpler. There were only a few types of welcoming arrays. Yang Chen knew that with a simple technique, it was easy to judge which one was used by the greatest heaven sect. What made Yang Chen happy the most was that until now, no one had noticed a common sparrow flying in the sky. This also meant that everything that he had done had still gone unnoticed. Many of the cultivators have spirit pets which were birds, could too share their vision. However, no one could share the vision with animals without the slightest spiritual power. A spiritual pet, unless with the appearance of its master, could absolutely not escape the exploration of a Dacheng realm master. It was estimated that the sitting Dacheng realm master wouldn't think to even dream that an ordinary sparrow would spell demise for the greatest heaven sect. According to the calculation of bearing of the welcoming array, Yang Chen easily controlled the sparrow to fly to a known key point. If it was not for the virtue of it being an ordinary sparrow, it wouldn't have been safe and sound. Otherwise, it must have been attacked by spiritual power here by the formations. The first type of formation wasn't the one, the second type also. When Yang Chen tried the key point of the third array method, the sparrow just flew past and caused the ground to stir when it landed with a spiritual power. It hit the body of the sparrow, instantly turning the sparrow into ash, disappearing without a trace. It seems that it was the third type of welcoming array. To be on the safe side, Yang Chen took control of another sparrow and flew to another key point. The same result reappeared. Afterwards, he sent a third one to the third key point, resulting in the same conclusion. At this point, Yang Chen had been able to completely determine that the greatest heaven sect used a third method of welcoming array construction that he knew. After confirming, he did not alarm anyone, quietly bypassing the mountain protecting great formation here to a faraway area from the greatest heaven sect. After determining the formation method, Yang Chen had a solution. When the consciousness clone descended into the lower realm, it was impossible to accurately locate the appropriate carrier. Because the consciousness clone had to cross 3 realms, the immortal, spirit and finally the mortal world. The method of the welcoming array was used to tell the consciousness clone of the position of the carrier. For the consciousness clone to possess a body, there were 3 different conditions which needed to be met. One was the exact time, the other was the accuracy of the welcoming array, and the other was the appropriate carrier. This time, Yang Chen knew that the location of the carrier was determined by the method of the array itself. The simplest method of destroying the formation was to attack violently when the welcoming array started, resulting in the formation not working smoothly. If it happened to be at the key moment of the body possession, the formation would collapse completely. However, this method was not so simple, he needed to face all the masters present at that time. Since Yang Chen wanted to be unknown as the perpetrator to the greatest heaven sect, he would not use this blatant method. Yang Chen planned to use another relatively gentle method. Usually, there was only one method to run the welcoming array, which also allowed the consciousness clone to find the carrier accurately. However, if another method was introduced in the welcoming array, when the consciousness clone descended, what kind of situation would that be? Either the consciousness would not be able to possess a body due to not being able to judge the correct carrier or mistakenly possess some other body. The carrier must be able to withstand the consciousness of the Great Principle Golden Immortal, who was weakened by many thousand times. Generally speaking, the carrier was a cultivator, at least in the Jitan realm. Otherwise it would not be able to bear such a terrifying consciousness, exploding and dying immediately. The carrier was destined to be sacrificed. To allow the consciousness to possess the body smoothly, the usual method was to use medicine to let the cultivator acting as the carrier fall into a sleep, and then subject consciousness could successfully possess without any resistance. Generally speaking, if the carrier was not cultivated with great enthusiasm and conditioned from birth that his fate was to sacrifice himself for the consciousness from the immortal world, few cultivators would contribute so generously with their own life. Even if he was brainwashed by religion, he was a creature, his instinct would have a sense of survival. He must be handled accordingly and not be eliminated. That was the decisive factor in the descent of the consciousness. For Yang Chen, it was not difficulty to arrange a similar array. The most troublesome was the carrier, the cultivator of the Jitan realm, who was willing to be a sacrifice for the consciousness clone from the immortal world. He had 5 Jitan realm masters in his medicine garden. Each of Wan Qian's 5 apprentices was a living puppet that had lost its active consciousness. This also meant that their situation was alike the carrier who had chosen to sacrifice himself for the consciousness clone. Thus, any of them could be successfully possessed. In this way, if Yang Chen chooses another suitable location, he could arrange an identical welcoming array. There would be 5 bodies, ready to be possessed in the array. It would spell disaster if started simultaneously with the array of the greatest heaven sect and the consciousness clone deciding to enter his array. The welcoming array method was not so simple. Even if it was Yang Chen, it took him time for the arrangement. When he calculated, there was less than 5 years left for the consciousness of the profound heaven sect to start its descent. This much time was enough for him to successfully arrange another welcoming array to trap it. There were a lot of materials needed for it, but a pity that Yang Chen didn't have that many. Some required things were special, a bit scarce. Once Yang Chen bought them, it would inevitably invite greatest heaven sect suspicion afterwards. However, even if no one helped, the Pure Yang Palace had mastered 100,000 mountains region with other sects. The materials for this array are all produced there. As the behind-the-scenes owner, a lot of these materials were naturally hoarded. After Yang Chen drove in a big circle, he quickly rushed back to the Pure Yang Palace. The palace master did not even ask Yang Chen what these things were needed for and immediately led Elder Zheng Feng, who oversaw the resources of the sect, to provide him the materials. Elder Zheng Feng did a more thorough job, bringing Yang Chen to the sect warehouse, opening the door, and then throwing him into it. Regardless of what he took, people would not care, they have long had a consensus on this matter. Yang Chen was to be cultivated as a future palace master. Strictly speaking, he was now a young palace master. As for what Yang Chen wanted to take, no one would care or keep an account. In these years, his contributions to the sect had surpassed the sum of the sect's would-be income of 1,000 years. What else could the elders care about? Everything seemed to be in Yang Chen's calculations. The hoarded materials from the 100,000 mountains were enough for his endeavor. What Yang Chen was going to do now was to find another suitable place and arrange the same welcoming array. Waiting for the moment of the consciousness's descent and then launching the formation. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 280. Blowing up the greatest heaven sect. Yang Chen did not tell the master of the palace or his master what he was doing. He didn't want to let the greatest heaven sect discover any clues through their expectations or worries. The Pure Yang Palace could not compete with the force behind the greatest heaven sect's facade. However, when Yang Chen left the Pure Yang Palace this time, he borrowed the illusion array banner from Gong Sunling. After all, the welcoming formation required a large piece of open space, and the violent spiritual fluctuations without the cover of an illusion would be discovered, no matter where it was. Of course, the location chosen should be far enough from the greatest heaven sect. So even if they found any anomalies, it would be still too late for them to stop it. Once the greatest heaven sect's formation showed any signs of trouble, it was certain that the spiritual power of the 2 arrays could be used to find the location of Yang Chen's layout. It must be ensured that when they do arrive, he must not be found anywhere near it. The open space was very easy to find. The spiritual power had the support of Yang Chen's top-grade spirit stone, the array would not have any problems. However, before he started to set up the array, he first used the illusion array to circle all the large open spaces around and including the selected open space. From the outside, only a raised cliff could be seen in its place, nothing else. In the illusion, Yang Chen first arranged a spirit gathering formation and a method to isolate the fluctuations of spiritual power to avoid doubt. With the illusion, he was no longer afraid of getting exposed. Next, Yang Chen began to arrange the welcoming array. This time, he had already studied in the immortal world. For a while, the profound heaven sect even planned to sacrifice his cultivation to serve as the consciousness avatar for their welcoming array. Therefore, he also studied it very thoroughly, no less than those who practiced the theory. The array method was extremely cumbersome. Yang Chen was alone, and he must also measure the amount of materials. He must prepare the materials for the array by himself. He also needed to accurately weigh the materials and mold them into the appropriate shapes, they must fit precisely in the right place. Arranging the array method still took a long time, even if Yang Chen was already familiar with the theory. A huge array of formations was formed little by little, the runes made from the grain materials had been placed in the right positions, and the various key nodes were also connected. At the end, the embroidered troughs were placed. If he loaded and stimulated the top-grade spirit stone spirit, he could successfully start the array. After doing all this, it took a full 3 years for Yang Chen. When everything was ready, he stopped. Yang Chen was afraid to start the formation, fearing that he would resonate with the welcoming array of the greatest heaven sect and their people would realize something. In the following time, he went to various places to strengthen his own alibi. When leaving, Yang Chen placed a sword array protected dome on the welcoming array under the illusion array. In this way, even if someone discovered the illusion array and entered, they still wouldn't be able to destroy the welcoming array. They will have to break the sword array before he arrived. Then again Yang Chen's figure appeared in various places, he appeared in many squares and cities. Of course, he also appeared in various auctions. In all of them, he only bought 2 kinds of things, fire seeds and alchemical materials. This made people more and more determined that Yang Chen was an alchemy master. Of course, Yang Chen would leave immediately after every purchase. He now had a very fast flying magic weapon which was not a secret, driving the shuttle, very few people could block him. To create some illusions for the Greatest Heaven Sect, Yang Chen even appeared outside the Greatest Heaven Sect once. Sometime in the first 2 months of starting to arrange the formation in Yang Chen's memory. Greatest Heaven Sect was identical to what it was in his past life. They began to release news 3 months in advance. The announcement laid out a plan to rebuild the mountain gate. Shortly after, the number of visitors declined at the original mountain gate site. Guests of the sect started to visit the guest house on another side. The mountain gate has been in disrepair since a long time. It was very normal to repair it every 100 years. Apart from Yang Chen, no one felt something amiss. Even some of the disciples of the Greatest Heaven Sect were so naive that they did not know the intention of their own sect. Leaving the Greatest Heaven Sect, Yang Chen quickly rushed to the side of the welcoming array he had arranged. Quietly, he waited for the formation to open. The place chosen by Yang Chen was inaccessible and there were no people in hundreds of miles around. One day before the opening, he had already prepared everything. Wan Qian's 5 female apprentices had already sat down in the corner of the big array. He had begun to count on his fingers, waiting for the formation to open. The arrival of the crucial time. Time passed into the night, almost to midnight. Yang Chen's right thumb came over on the other fingers one by one and stopped on the index finger. It was at this time that Yang Chen's left hand had already taken the top-grade spirit stone. He immediately put it on the inlay. Spiritual power instantly began to stimulate the array. Boom. The complete formation was instantly ignited and the dark ground seemed to suddenly light up like a huge torch, making the surrounding cliffs glow. A series of electric lights began to swim in the crowded array. In the midnight sky, there seemed to be a black hole in the emptiness. This black hole only appeared above the large array and hovered not far from the top. If you look at it from a distance, you couldn't find the existence of this black hole. This was also why the Greatest Heaven Sect and other sects have accomplished the descent of the consciousness clone to their realm without getting noticed. The shape of the black hole was very bizarre. It looked like a semicircle. A quarter of the semicircle began to slowly descend, a ghastly black thread hangs down from it towards the array. One of the women's mouth flew open. The black line made into the woman's mouth, the semicircle in the sky began to slowly change its shape, becoming rounder, as if it were originally a full circle, but half lost. Now it seemed to be recovering. On the Greatest Heaven Sect Square, which was thousands of miles away, there were many sporadically standing figures. The welcoming array here was also open, and the same phenomena happened here too at the beginning. However, the moment when the semicircle appeared, all the high-ranking members of the Greatest Heaven Sect frowned while standing next to each other. What always happened in the past resulted in a whole circle. How could there be a semicircle this time? No one knew what was going on, everyone looked at each other in worry. When the semicircle hung down a black line and entered the mouth of a cultivator, the black line seemed to be frightened and shook. Then the semicircle above the big array began to slowly disappear, in a short time it became a crescent moon. What is going on? The sect master of the Greatest Heaven Sect could not help but scream in fear. Such changes at the end of the day. Even if one was a fool, they would know that something must have gone wrong. However, the people present at the scene broke their heads but could not understand the problem. Everyone was watching this change, but there was nothing they could do. They didn't know how to reverse the situation. Suddenly, a dashing realm elder raised his head and looked at the direction of Yang Chen's arrangement of his welcoming array. He suddenly said, "In that direction, there is a spiritual fluctuation that is almost identical to our great array." Boom. A few of the high-ranking members of the Greatest Heaven Sect almost detonated. How could this be? Some people have arranged the same method as my sect and cut off the boundaries of my ancestral hall. The elder of the Daching realm once again screamed, he turned into a sword light and flew in the direction of Yang Chen. Stabilize the array. At the crucial moment, the sect master screamed. Several elders who were responsible for launching the formation method stabilized the formation. However, the black line that hung down resisted crazily. It kept shaking, kept getting tangled even more and didn't stop for a moment. The black line kept drilling into the first disciple of Zhanxian. Yang Chen's heart moved and the other 4 female apprentices and the mountain god flew to the side of the first female disciple and stood quietly. Yang Chen slowly watched the black hole become more and more round, the black silk thread that was hanging down became thicker and thicker. When the first female disciple had absorbed it for about 1/5 of the time, he suddenly controlled the female disciple to fly into another great array. The black line was thus interrupted by the great array. It then began to search for the next suitable target. The second female disciple immediately took over the residence of the first female disciple, and the black line quickly found her. Her cherry mouth was smashed in and it quickly went inside. Looking at it, Yang Chen controlled the third female disciple to take over the second one, followed by the fourth, and finally followed by the fifth. After all the black lines had been drilled into the mouth of the 5 female disciples, the black hole above Yang Chen's formation had become a full moon. On the other hand, the pattern on the side of the greatest heaven sect had turned into a small crescent moon. If they were combined, it would just be a full circle. Yang Chen suddenly sighed in his mouth. The 5 female disciples brushed the area, sat down and began to cultivate. What they practiced were the small spells that Yang Chen gave them 3 years ago, 3 purities secret art refining spiritual awareness. The 5 women did not have a sense of initiative at all. In fact, Yang Chen controlled their bodies and then practiced the 3 purities secret art. Even if this was the consciousness of a Great Principle Golden Immortal, most of it was lost during the descent. After the descent, only at most it was at the level of early Daching stage. Because of the sudden emergence of the 2 large arrays and the emergence of a total of 6 carrier cultivators in the large array, the consciousness that should have entered a carrier cultivator was artificially divided into 6. Yang Chen had 5 exclusive shares, but there was only 1 copy for the greatest heaven sect that really needed it. And only one of them was still unusually unstable. In the 5 female disciples who entered Zhanxian, there was no active consciousness at all, and the consciousness of the following quickly took the initiative. However, Yang Chen's refining directly sent the avatar consciousness into hell. Under the influence of the formidable 3 purities secret arts refining spiritual awareness, the separated consciousness had almost no resistance, it was completely controlled by 3 purities secret art till successively rupturing. The last remaining part disappeared in less than an hour. The news was not passed down to Yang Chen, but he did not need to know it. His only goals were to destroy the greatest heaven sect's ideology, disrupt the conciseness clone's descent into his realm, and then teach the greatest heaven sect a lesson. At this point, the first goal had been basically achieved. The ideology of the consciousness clone's descent into the lower realm had its 5 out of 6 parts refined. The remaining 1/6 suffered from the sacredness of the spiritual awareness and the instinctive counterattack of the carrier cultivator. It had become nothing but a trinket, not to mention the message. Yang Chen's 5 female puppets, after the refinement of the avatar consciousness, had their spiritual power increased. All of them had improved and promoted a small realm, from middle to the late Chetan stage. The devouring consciousness be able to improve his level. The improvement of spiritual power was very obvious, and even the spiritual awareness had been greatly improved. However, at this moment, Yang Chen had not taken too much notice of it. He quickly returned the 5 female puppets back to the medicine garden. Yang Chen jumped directly into the shuttle and drove it far away to escape. The black hole above the large array was still spinning slowly. After Yang Chen fled a certain distance, he violently launched another array that had already been arranged next to him. The array next to it was purely a destructive kind. The moment the formation was launched, a huge spiritual attack hit the center of the large welcoming array. The entire array shone flashes of light, then flashed a glimmer of light, finally the entire battle formation swayed and trembled. In a certain position on the array, it slammed open. This small crack began the general progression of falling dominoes. On the whole arrangement of the array, cracks began to appear constantly, and soon the whole array was covered in them. As if in the same way as Yang Chen's arrangement of the array, the large array at the gate of the greatest heaven sect began to crack a small crack in the same position, soon the crack became unmanageable. In a fierce tremor, with a bang, the whole formation burst with an explosion, fragments of the array madly splattered around. Not good. Fast. Dodge. The greatest heaven sect's few high-level executives and a great master of the Daching stage flashed and flew a few miles away. But the explosion and the fragmentation of the array, the black hole floating above the array also detonated furiously. The huge sound spread hundreds of miles away, a dazzling fire rushed into the sky, and after illuminating it, the black hole burst upwards. A huge shockwave centered on the array exploded, carrying the power of destruction towards the surroundings. The gates of the greatest heaven sect, the hills where the outer disciples were, and the inner sect, including all the buildings, were directly turned into powder in front of this huge force. The scope of the explosion directly covered 1,000 miles, and all the houses around were directly turned into ruins. Countless greatest heaven sect disciples who had not had time to escape in this crazy destruction became muddle-headed and eventually turned into meat sauce. Just this explosion had turned the whole greatest heaven sect upside down. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more.